Hello, and welcome to Danctuary.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Danctuary podcast episode 2 Endgame. We just had a minor accident happening in prior. I'm very happy that today I'm joined by my guests, Wudijo, Lexy, Leviathan, and Raxxanterax. How are you guys doing? Woo!
We made it.
Good, man. Good.
Pretty good.
I'm doing great. Not as great as the PTR servers, but I'm great.
Do you have some issues with like crashes and disconnects or anything on this end?
No. It's all good.
All good. Like I actually
Just
had some,
inspecting the armory, right?
Just like twice every 5 minutes.
really.
So not too
So
bad.
you actually had
That's super
issues.
playable.
Like I had the issue like I couldn't start a game. Like I just couldn't. My game would always crash. And I was looking at the Battle.net forums and had some couple of tips from chat, but nothing worked. Like I did 32-bit, 64-bit, no sound, reinstall, clear cache, change like Windows screen. Nothing worked. Every single time I clicked on start game, it just straight up crashed, right?
Because you guys are EU, right? And you guys got to play on the American server.
I mean, there was never an issue with that
I don't
one.
think this should matter. Yeah.
There was
No?
never an issue with that one. And then somebody in chat was like for him it worked when he deleted a character and then he started the game. Afterwards it worked. And I was like, okay. And I just deleted the wizard, started game, and it worked.
Oh, so you just got to get rid of all your wizards.
Yeah,
Perfect.
see, that's what chat said as well. That's a message from Blizzard. Delete a wizard and you get to play the game. And I was like, are you kidding me? And then somebody else in chat did it and it worked for him as well. So I was like fighting with the game for 1 hour to actually get a game to get shit tested, and Monka Estu, that was terrible. But now the game works.
You're gonna see you know how they have the patch notes before the PTR. It's gonna say like how to participate in PTR. First, delete a wizard.
Delete a wizard, right?
Start your character copy.
Man, dude, I could have
That's the right
deleted.
tone. Yes.
Yes, I could have deleted any other class, but I chose. I'm like, all right, this wizard get dumpstered. It's not gonna work anyways. And I clicked start game, and it worked. And my face, I was sitting there with like what? How does this work now? So yeah, but yes, it is PTR time, and this is an endgame episode. Like me and Rex, we already had the chance on a previous episode to share like our thoughts, experience, like reading through the patch the first time. How did you guys feel? Like you saw the patch, you read through it. Like what was your like initial impression, and what stood out to you guys?
Well, for me, it was like, this looks nice. Okay, some buffs. And then, where's the rest? I just felt like, I was only reading like 1/3 of the actual patch that I was expecting. So, where's the rest? I don't know. So that was my impression.
So what else would you like to see? Like more classes?
Yeah, I would have
right?
liked to see basically every set adjusted, like a little bit. It's just the numbers at least, not really super crazy changes to everything. But there are a lot of sets that are far behind, and it's just missing like all of Demon Hunter, all of like Bar basically, and so on. So
Yeah, I was kind of curious when I first saw this one because it's the first patch after they've introduced all the new sets, so it kind of sets the tone for how they might go forward with the next seasonal patches and stuff. So I was like, all right, how big or expansive are they going to be with the amount of changes they produce and stuff? And I was with Woody, like I definitely was kind of surprised that it was as sparse. I definitely expected a lot of wizard attention because they hadn't had much in the last few. But surprisingly, I think my very, very first reaction was, there's no god changes at all. Okay, don't say anything. Just keep quiet. Don't move.
Smile and wink. Smile and wink. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Maybe they're going to slow roll it, though. It might be the kind of thing where they just really want to stretch out, being able to make changes to the game. So maybe next patch you get DH and stuff.
What about you, Lex?
I mean, as a wizard player, seeing Twister and Frozen Orb and Hydra all being touched is a really good sign. But then when you look at the numbers, it's like kind of disappointing. I mean, for like Hydra, for example, you're just trading Death Wish and that Sigil for 2 other things, and it doesn't move unless you have the 4th slot. So it's gonna be terrible outside of season.
Nailed it.
Unless they plan on keeping the 4th slot. Should they keep the 4th slot? I don't know.
That's a good question.
So, was there anything you felt was like missing, like after reading it for the first time? I mean, obviously the other classes, as Woody pointed out, right? There was nothing for the Demon Hunter. Like this is definitely a Crusader
I didn't
wizard
think that
thingy.
GPD needed to be nerfed. I really don't think so. But
Really?
Poison Scythe for sure. But then I guess that was an undocumented bug fix, right? For Poison Scythe.
Yeah,
They
there are
fixed the
still a
bug.
couple of things that are kind of an issue and the way they fixed it. So we're gonna talk about this one later a bit about deeper mechanics was a very lazy fix that they applied. It is kind of fixed, but not really. There's once again collateral damage, this time on a Necromancer class. So we'll see if we get a proper fix done. There was a lazy application of this one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan, I know you answered the question already in the previous podcast, but what was your first impression? And
the first thing, opening up the patch notes when I saw the gigantic table for the shadow clones, and I didn't know there was a second seasonal theme, I was just like, okay, no matter what this is, I cannot imagine just a casual player opening up, we're going to spawn you shadow clones. Here's a huge table for you to try to understand what's going to happen. And I was like, I of course saw the hard CCs and the unequal builds between the Necromancer with frailty. So that kind of scared me. I thought the 4th cube slot was great. I really agree with what Woody said. Sitting back here before the patch came out, I thought they were going to touch a lot more sets, and I knew for sure they were going to touch the wizard class, but I was thinking of the Trag'Oul set, the Rathma set, the Raymond set that are just so effed here, so unplayable. There's nothing you can do with them. I thought certainly we would see something for those. It really shocked me to see nothing there.
Sure.
So moving on, do you guys think I know we're in the current patch, first iteration, but for the next patch, right? What do you say? So a bit more balance once again, this time also touching the other classes. Is that what you're looking forward to?
Well, I would pose a question to everybody. If you feel, and I agree initially that it was a bit lacking in the amount of changes, but I guess I would ask if you feel like they get too ambitious and they try to change too many things at the same time, and then stuff might go live that is overpowered or broken. Would we be okay with that? Because I think the one issue is maybe they want to only have a certain amount of changes that they can react to in time to get it good for live.
So my opinion, I would much rather you release something, fewer things correctly than a lot of things that are bugged, because a lot of times things that are bugged for whatever reason don't get fixed for several seasons or several patches. And then it can be so many seasons down the road where you just lose track of what even, unless you go read a mechanics blog from sVr from 5 years ago on Reddit, which I've had to do recently a couple of times, you can't even remember how the stuff actually works because it doesn't say what it does. It doesn't do what it says it does.
That's correct. Yeah, that happens quite frequently indeed. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, I don't see the big issue with just buffing in small steps. Why not just add 20% every season to every underperforming set until it eventually comes to the level you want it to be. Something like Marauders can easily be buffed by 5 tiers right now, and then next patch you see maybe it needs another 3 tiers. So maybe do it slow and just give it 2, and then we see if it needs another tier adjustment. Just do some big steps for the really underperforming stuff, and then do smaller and smaller steps. I don't really see an issue with that. So I don't see why they wouldn't do that to all sets at the same time, and then just keep going smaller and smaller steps. So
I see. So essentially,
on this one.
Yeah. So
they've done 2 times buffs on things before, in Pale, and that's just 5 GR level. So why not just keep doing that to the bottom performing sets for sure? Yeah. And you're not gonna mess that up, right? How can you mess that up?
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. Those are very this is essentially low hanging fruit, right? Because if you just give another 0 or increase the power of the 6 piece by 10%, we all know what's going to happen, right? The build is exactly the same. It just hits harder, right? But the best iteration has already been found. Just this iteration is stronger. So this is a very low hanging fruit on how you can give those underperforming sets an easy out to become stronger.
Except for Towers and Firebirds, those just need reworks completely. Yeah, you can't play it that way.
Without a question, Firebirds
and Rathma
as well. Firebirds is definitely one of those sets where there's a lot of things to be done, and value changes won't cut it. It's similar to the Typhon's Veil 4-piece. I'm not sure how you guys feel about this one, but it's like
it's awful.
yeah.
Oh, actually, I played it and I was like totally fine with the 4 pieces, so I didn't have any issues.
This is the classic Wudijo, just don't get hit, 6,000 APM, godlike mode activated.
You don't have
Everybody
to get hit
else.
now. You can move now. You don't have to channel. So.
Yeah. It's like, this is like one of those Woody moments where it's easy to execute, guys. Just drink 5 espresso and a Red Bull and you're Gucci, man, and you can play it.
I have water here, okay? Just water.
Yeah. It's like Woody can do it. I believe you. Yes.
So yeah, I think like to answer back, I do agree that they could just give those nudges to a lot of the underperforming stuff. I think my only concern would be sort of like player fatigue. So say that you're that one DH guy that really wants Marauders to be good, and they keep giving it like a 10% nudge, but it doesn't still catch up. Eventually, you might just stop caring or checking. You're like, how many seasons am I going to have to wait until my set is actually relevant? And there could be a little bit of player psychology there of, yeah, it's getting better, but not fast enough, or that's just one angle.
Yeah, so my idea was to just give it like a big buff and then smaller and smaller steps, to like fine tune it later on. So right now you can easily double or even triple or quadruple or whatever Marauders, and everything will be fine. It would still not even touch God Demon Hunter. And then next time you can maybe still double it, and then you would kind of get close at some point. So
I see what you're saying.
Not just do like 10% every time.
I mean, how afraid are you, though, to overshoot it on the PTR? You guys remember the first iteration of Whirlwind Barb and then the Lamentation nerf? There was quite some outcry there, right?
Yeah.
So how afraid are you of that?
For the most part.
So one thing to add to what Leviathan said, which I think he makes a good point, it's similar, like maybe it's even the exact same thing or like a tangent to it, but I think part of the reason for the patch notes in the new season is to bring people back to the game. The people play Diablo for a month and then they go off and whatever they're playing, Fall Guys, Among Us, PoE, and then the patch notes hit and it's like a time for excitement to come back. If you do like these small incremental changes, Marauder was buffed 10%. That is not some kind of, really exciting change, even if we're slowly stepping toward, making it even. I think there is some value in shaking things up. For example, let's just take this current PTR. Let's say the Bomb Satyr wasn't there. It's exactly the same, but the Bomb Satyr isn't there. It's just less exciting because that's the thing that's just crushing everything. And what is Blizzard going to do? And it's creating like all these waves, all this drama, so to speak. And in some ways, actually, I think that's good for the game because it sparks people's interest. Is this going to make it live? Am I going to play the Crusader for the first time ever? So about that player psychology, I think there's actually some value in, taking a big step and just YOLOing it and, having a new build being on top for a while.
I think that's a fair point.
Yeah, people get excited, very excited for that, yeah.
Like in terms of like exciting changes, what is more exciting to you? It's like, hey, we entirely reworked, Firebirds, or hey, Firebirds now only needs 2 fire skills and we appended a 0. Like, which one gets like the community more thriving, right? When are the Wizard players or anyone for that matter saying, hey, finally a rework on this one, exciting new stuff to test?
Yeah, the thing is that Firebirds, just doesn't exist right now. No one.
It's a very bad example.
Yeah, it's because Firebird
nobody will
not exist. Like there's even people playing Invoker. I understand why, but I don't see anyone play Firebird because why? There's literally no reason.
That's true.
It's just a straight up worse version of basically 4 other sets you could do on Wizard. So
it's the stipulations, right? The penalties. Like you have to have something come out of that's worthwhile, and nothing's worthwhile. So
that's true. Like
doesn't.
Yeah, the best part about Firebird, since we're this is a Firebird bashing stream right now. The best part about this is definitely the damage mitigation. Like when you kill like the last trailing yellow or something, right? And you lose the burn, and then there's a molten trail on the ground, and you just run through it, and you're immediately gone. It's like all damage mitigation because you killed that last ignited dude, and you're just gone. So you're like getting deleted from the face of the earth.
The old Star Pact build where you had to basically face plant on top of an elite for your meteor to land.
Yes. Yes.
You had to have your meteor land for the 3rd fire ignite. So you were just suiciding on top of elites to try to get a bird.
Yes.
That was the worst thing to
Yeah,
ever.
but isn't your fantasy of being a phoenix just complete immersion right there?
Wow.
Rising from the ashes?
In terms of immersion, it's a 10 out of 10 without a question, nerd man. Like, granted, terrible point, but yes. It is probably the most immersive set out there. I'm not sure if one is more immersive than Firebirds on this end. Fair points, yes.
So yeah, I think like when you're changing the builds, you have to go, at least for me, there have to be 2 reasons why I'll play something. It has to be very efficient and strong, which is maybe more of the high end, kind of mindset, or it has to have some fun, unique mechanic to it. Like, for example, before I came in here, I was playing the Witch Doctor Chicken in T16 and just trying to zip through it as fast as possible and just blowing stuff up as a chicken. And what I kept saying is to my stream was, it's like, well, I am certain I could do this faster on Mundanugus. I could just put it on and just sprinkler everything down with my Manitou and just delete everything. But I'm a chicken. And that adds a lot. That adds a lot.
That adds a lot. I mean, do you think that the chicken build has any chance against Spirit Barrage Mundanugus? Like
no, as a primary damage dealer, no.
Yeah, I heard the numbers aren't there.
Isn't the explosion like 12 or 15 yards or something like this? It needs to be bigger for sure, right?
I don't know. I just feel
because imagine trying to like one-shot a blue pack of enemies and then one straggler doesn't make it into the explosion. Now you have to do another one.
That's correct. Let's press
it. Needs to be like 20 yards at least.
And that's what happens all the time. And like, even if like for some reason, I don't know why, I just can't kill like Perendis. I don't know why my chicken doesn't do it. I hit one Perendi like 9 times. Like, what's happening here? It's like Spirit Barrage just would have erased it instantly.
Yeah, I mean, Spirit Barrage also has this insane advantage, like, moving while doing damage because of the sprinkler at the top. It's just crazy, right? And the AoE explosions, they trigger your Vatsehian guards. You're fearing everything. You're just a fast boy with infinite damage and you're tanky. So I'm not sure how to beat that one, It feels like the only thing that can beat something like this is Monk Dashing Strike, and that's it.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
All right. So let's head straight into the first build that we're actually gonna take a look for today, and obviously one of the big winners. Let me ask you this: when you read through the patch notes and you saw the bombardment buffs, did anyone actually think, hey, I'm gonna build a Crusader, 6-piece Archon, 2-piece Invoker, 3-piece Captain Crimson, 2-piece Norvalds, and I guess Focus and Restraint, like the green guy. Did anyone think of this? Like, anyone? No. I was also like, I didn't see that one coming. Somebody in chat mentioned like, hey, Fonts looks pretty good. And I'm like, really? Does it though? And then I get linked a full green Crusader, and I'm like, haha, good jokes, my friend, right? Turns out it's pretty good.
So for me, because I was a huge Crusader fan when it was initially released, and then I've been through a couple seasons with obviously Condemn, and then they gave us Rollins, which was, oh my god, garbage, and all this stuff along the way. But we got the Invoker kind of rework when it became a Crusader set, and so you were getting into like all these Thorns mechanics, and it was really cool. And then Lawn became a thing. And I think that was sort of like the revolution for the Crusaders, because it was this crazy build where you're doing Thorns, but it's not actually like you attacking anything, like hitting anything to do Thorns. You're actually just bombarding with the Barrel of Spikes. And we haven't touched that, I don't think, since like season 9 or 10. And there's so many weird mechanics to Thorns, I had literally forgotten everything. So when I was looking at the patch, make a long story short, I was like, oh, I guess we'll play Bombardment with some like, just massive crits and, crazy AoE and stuff like that. And I was like, wait a minute, wasn't there like a build that used Bombardment in the past? Oh yeah, we can do Thorns with this. And after that, like, you just go crazy. And I think the cool thing that I forgot, and we're probably about to touch on this, is that, with Lawn Bombardment, you can't use sets, right? So in my head, it never crossed to combine Invokers with it. There was sort of like some meme stuff with that, with Icons back in the day, but both of those sets have gotten significant buffs since then. And so now you get this interplay, and I mean, it's insane. It's absolutely insane.
It is very strong. So for the few people in chat that are not really aware of this, in case you haven't checked, PTR leaderboards yet, As I stated, this is pretty much a green Crusader, and in a 4-man setup, especially in the next season with the additional cube slot, where you will likely equip Focus and Restraint additionally, meaning you're actually going to be a full green boy, not a single legendary item equipped, and the 4th slot will actually be a COE here, so you're still in rotation playstyle. But for today, we'll mostly focus on the solo iteration, and we've seen, have some great success on the PTR. We mentioned it in a previous episode of Danctuary already. We expected this to pretty much overperform in solo, and last time I checked, there were like 4 or 5 150 solo clears. Expected them to happen a bit faster, but it turns out it took a lot of time for the players to get used to the builds. What is very important to understand in this setup, and I only noticed today when actually testing the mechanics, is each stack from the Invoker stack, so it's only the 2-piece which increases your thorns. You want to get to like up to like 20 or 22, 23. We'll see it in the solo clear in a second. Stacks, and when you click Bombardment, your thorns is snapshotted for that specific bombardment. So what you can do is you can just sit more or less tight between monsters, click your Provoke to get more block chance. With that block chance, create a lot of Invoker stacks, and then you click Bombardment once, your thorns are snapshotted, and then you can use the horse for damage. It helps you to preserve more targets for when you want to actually do damage, so you don't need to use the horse per se to trigger your extra multiplier. And then it also helps you after actually having clicked Invoker and then clicking your Bombardment, and then when you see the first Oculus pop up while being in horse, you can just go into the Oculus. So that helps a lot in terms of like bringing your damage to the monsters. I didn't expect the snapshot. I thought everything would be like fully dynamic and you'd actually lose the Invoker stacks on your Bombardment, but you don't. Like if you click with 25 Invoker stacks, that's a pretty hard-hitting Bombardment because of the additional thorns. I think this is also one of the main reasons why people have a couple of troubles in 4-man right now. With the build itself, it doesn't really perform too well in 4-man. Do you guys have you guys seen some footage on this end or tried it a bit in 4-man?
No.
Looked very underperforming, unfortunately. I'm not sure
what's the main
happened.
issue.
Yeah, I don't know. That's the
main
thing.
issue is that there's not enough hits on the Crusader, I guess.
So
even with Baroque.
So are you saying that the Bombardment Crusader is not a good trash clear in 4-man?
It is acceptable, maybe, but in comparison to what we have else right now, so there might be some issues. I've checked all the multipliers, so the good news are the multipliers straight up work. Like, the Mortal Drama just straight up works. The Belt of the Truth just straight up works. It can proc area damage also, still can, so no changes on this one. It's all Gucci, but it's just not delivering in 4-man. We expected it to hit real hard, but it doesn't. I guess it is a problem with trash melting too quickly. You cannot really set up like one huge ridiculous blow because the barrels are constantly flowing from the Belt of the Truth, so that might be an issue. I haven't had the chance to check, maybe since it's a Fawn's AoE build with some gimmicky mechanics on Barrel of Spikes, that it ignores some multipliers that are given by the group. I'm not sure if strong arms, for instance, apply and all that stuff. I'm not sure if debuffs really work with this. There isn't a reason why it shouldn't, though.
Yeah, so I did 4-mans as the Bombardment Crusader trash clearer on Thursday, and we. For the first couple of attempts, I had to just figure out what the hell I was doing. But I think we had a floor 1 battlefields, skipped the middle 3 floors, and then I had a floor 5 battlefields, and we spawned the boss in like 8 minutes. And I have the video. If we have a clip.
Sure.
If we have time later, we can look at it. But I'm not, like you said, I'm not saying like it's super ridiculous and it's not like bazooka level or anything like that. But it was pretty good.
It is. It is good, but it's not the you're gonna YOLO one-shot yellows level.
No. Yeah, elites were a challenge. Like you had to hit blues multiple times, and you'd have to drag a yellow the entire way to kill it. Yeah, nothing like that.
Yeah, just looking at the pure numbers when we did the theory craft before actually playing PTR, it really looked like first barrel, good pixel, good buy yellows. Turns out it's not the case, and right now it's a bit baffling why this isn't the case. I expected this to be one of those, can clear the rift in like 5 minutes builds. I don't think this is the case in 4-man right now. but it performs in solo, and it performs pretty ridiculously well. We can take a quick look at Kikaha's run.
I wanted to, before you jump into this real quick,
sure.
I wanted to ask you about, because you started out talking about sort of dynamic and static sort of improvements to the damage. So do you have sort of a general overview of how it exactly works? Because I think I recall that you do snapshot a lot of your damage before hitting the bombardment button, right? So I think if you're like standing in an Oculus, it'll, you know, increase that damage. And then even if you move out of it after it's been cast, you're still getting that snapshot. The COE is dynamic though, right? And then you're saying the horse is dynamic as well too.
So the horse is dynamic. Oculus should also be dynamic. I didn't test that one, but it was back in the days. And yeah, as you stated, it's COE horsey dynamic, yes. So you don't need to worry about snapshotting them.
Are you sure that you like, did you check all the calculations when you said you were expecting like one-shot yellows on 150 and so on? I don't know if there could be something.
Yeah, that's why I went into it today, and so far everything looks kind of correct. Yeah,
I don't really see why you would suddenly one-shot yellows with the damage that the build has in Foreman. Like, it's good in solo, it can do 150, but I don't see how you're just destroying Foreman.
I mean, I have I can also open the sheet if you want me to, and we can take a look at the exact formulas to figure out where the error is.
It'll take a while probably.
Yes, but on 40 targets, so if you have a perfect pixel on 40 targets and there's a yellow in the center, then the first barrel should take half the life of that yellow. But it doesn't.
I didn't see anything like that. We ran maybe 10 150s, didn't see anything like that.
Yeah,
so
it also sounds too strong to me, honestly. So I don't know.
I mean, it performs really well in solo. You know, 150s in under 10 minutes are possible with it. So I would expect it to be also scalable in Foreman. But as it turns out,
how would you scale it? I mean, you're losing hits that will stack your Invoker. And I mean, okay, you make bigger pulls and you can provoke, so maybe that kind of works. But on the other hand, like, don't really get these crazy buffs, I guess. You don't benefit from Ice Blink. And
you do not add, yes, you don't get any. I mean, Ice Blink is the obvious one, I guess. That definitely doesn't work. I'm not sure about the rest. If there's something missing there, something to investigate. But at least I know a couple of other people expected a bit of better Foreman performance overall.
Yeah. Maybe something to consider too is just barrel behavior in general, because they do kind of have a mind of their own.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes they just fly off to nothing. They hit the ground, even though there's like a big pool right next to them. So that's also weird. Sometimes they go, like, I don't know, sometimes they aim for a target and sometimes they just drop on the ground somewhere. So it's really odd.
Yeah.
Would you guys prefer if when you cast bombardment instead of a target on an area, on a specific area, like where nothing is, that it only hits that point? Would you prefer that one?
I think so, because that gives the players more control, right? So say it has like a 20 circle radius, 20 area radius or something, and that's where you drop it, and you can, say, okay, this is where the setup is. Like, you drop your flag, everything right there, boom, that's the circle.
Yeah, I mean, what I've learned in the last couple of days playing Bombardment and Twister Wizard is something that I already know. I'm just reinforcing in my mind more and more is I hate RNG and I hate all this random stuff, right? Like, I'm standing there in the pack and the Barbarian's making this beautiful pack and I'm waiting for physical and my belt is just throwing bombardments and like taking all the trash, like half HP or killing the little trash. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Am I supposed to like run away until physical because all my trash is dying? And then my bombardments go everywhere, and then I go to Twister Wizard, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna lag here, but I want to try to kill him before I lag, and then I start channeling, and then my Ed Sigil is throwing twisters everywhere, and then I lag and crash. I'm just like, can I have control of my character, please? Can I do it, Diablo? Every time you try to do it for me, you just ruin everything.
Well, I mean, for the Crusader, there's an easy solution. Just don't press the horse, I guess, until you're ready.
Yeah,
it's still strong though. Just the little barrels. It's like killing all my little trash. Like, not completely, but it's hurting them.
It's enough, yeah.
Yeah, okay, I see. I guess times 5 is not really such a big deal anymore. Then, I guess.
Yeah. I started like. Feel free to bramble further. I just started the Crusader video, which is the rank 1 clear. At the time was the rank 1 clear by Kikaha. He is a high Paragon guy, so that's disclaimer here. He's 8.3k. His gear is decent. It is not insane gear. This is definitely gear that you can acquire in a season if you play a lot. It is not, every item has a red border and every item is insane with Thorns rolls. No, he's missing a couple of Thorns rolls. It's not too important. I'm certain he invested a couple of points into Vitality. He's extremely durable. This is a very hostile mob set, right? So we have a 4-corner festering with Tusk Bogans. It is a hard-hitting mob set, and he doesn't have like severe troubles surviving overall. So I was very surprised how durable he is, right? If we slow it down a bit and take a look at his cast times and how many stacks of Invoker he gets. Now this is right now a bad timing to really stop and slow down because he just spawned a conduit at the top. Runs into the first elite, is pretty happy. He has one elite behind him. And then, unburied. It's pretty good. Those guys will follow to the conduit. And next to the conduit, there's the next elite, right? So yeah, four elites sitting right in the vicinity, and in the vicinity of the conduit. That is pretty good, right? So on that end, he's very, very lucky.
Yeah, so one thing that I kind of rediscovered as I was playing this yesterday a lot is, the one issue we used to have back in the day with Bombardment was the recovery, because you're not hitting a lot. And I think the lovely addition to this is that you get punished back in the build now with using Invokers. So you do get some life on hit on gear, and it helps, but you're definitely going to notice that you're just yo-yoing your life, and I think relying on the Akarat's profit proc quite a bit.
Yes, you do, especially because you don't have spot anymore for the actual proc, right? I'm not sure what you would do in hardcore, but on software you don't really have a slot that you can use for the proc as a passive. So you're really just reliant on profit on this end. That is true. Also, another thing that you mentioned is you actually have something to attack with, right? We didn't have this one in the old build, which means Stricken stacking was very complex. You needed to either stack Stricken with the horse, with the
Spike Barding.
Yes, with Spike Barding, or it was Consecration with Bathed Light, right? No, with
now it's actually perfect because you can, like, even on any ad boss, you can actually stack Stricken.
Correct.
It's probably the only build in the game that can do that.
Yes.
It's great.
Yes, you can single target stack Stricken, true, because you don't really have anything else. So
and I played this bit on very low Paragon. I did like maybe a Paragon 1k character or so, like clearing 125, and then I was trying a bit higher as well. So I noticed that full green is not possible.
Yes.
Yeah, you need some toughness basically. So I took Justice Lantern and Unity and so on, and I didn't have Convention, I think.
You omitted Convention. Interesting.
Yeah, I dropped the Convention for low Paragon, and it was still fine. I think later on you definitely take the Convention, especially on season. You just take it anyway. Unity plus Convention, I guess. And it's gonna be great, I think. So if this stays anywhere close to this, or maybe gets like a nerf of like 5 to 10 tiers or so, I guess would still be a really nice build to start blasting early in the season. It's just don't play it in T16. Huh?
Don't play it in T16.
I tried it in T16, it's horrible.
It is horrible.
So my experience was very similar to Woody's. And what you guys have said, the toughness and the sustain are kind of issues, especially at low Paragon. I did exactly the same thing that Woody did. I dropped COE for Justice Lantern, and that made a big difference.
Yeah, Justice Lantern is really big. Yeah.
If it was released right now, I would say for like just the standard player putting it together, trying it at a low Paragon, I think definitely the issue they're going to encounter is surviving.
I mean, there are much worse builds than this, though. I think this is overall fine, so it's not really a big deal, I think.
Yeah, overall, I'm very surprised how durable he is on 150.
As long as you have enough life per hit, you're fine. So if you have an ancient weapon or life per hit or so,
yeah, it's like a big 30k chunk on that.
Yeah, exactly. And that helps a lot. And the rest comes from profit, I guess. Just healing every 20 seconds.
Yeah, he in this setup he actually has life per hit on the weapon. He did not have it on the bracers. He had vitality and always roll on the bracers.
One thing I'm wondering too, for if we're talking the player base, I think Thorns builds have always been relatively interesting to gear, because not only do you have the need to get Thorns as a secondary on a lot of gear, but then there's the ancient tier that actually improves Thorns, right? And on some pieces it's quite significant, like the chest, the amulet, shield. shoulders, and maybe the belt all have like a 9500 at the top on ancient pieces.
Not the chest, but the rest was right. Yes.
Okay.
And then you can also forego a lot of the crit rolls, right?
Yeah, it is unique in terms of gearing, right? It is strictly unique in terms of gearing. We have no other builds where you can like purely omit critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Yes, you can omit critical hit chance on some Necromancer builds because of Brittle Touch, or if you play some Wudijo Shimizu stuff, right? But elsewise, really, like we always gear critical hit chance and critical hit damage. Hence, it is inherently interesting to just try at Fawns, right?
Mm-hmm.
Definitely is something else to gear. All right.
So, you know what? I noticed I was looking at a couple of people's versions of this build, and I actually saw some people omit Lord Commander, which gives you the 35% cooldown reduction on bombardment. And I didn't understand that because I think you need, with that passive and some cooldown reduction, like around 60%, you need that to hit that 16-second window of having bombardment for every physical cast, right?
You should.
Yeah, but you don't need it if you don't run on convention. So,
if you have convention, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I was not running this passive in the beginning. I took it later, but if you don't have convention, there's no reason. So
did you do proc then in that case, or what did you play? Probably. Right?
I think I was doing Long Arm of the Law or something for an extra damage reduction. So it was quite tanky then, and works fine.
All right, so I stopped here specifically because this is a Swarms map right now, and we have Ghosts, and let's see what happens in the next two rotations. It's pretty beautiful, I would say. Those guys have Fire Chains, and it's pretty good for the Invoker, just saying. So if you want to take a very close look right now, right?
What do these stacks get to?
I mean, it's not too bad on the stacks. He clicks on 25, goes into the Oculus. One blue is nearly entirely gone, and the next rotation is also pretty good. I mean, I've rarely seen builds that just, see a blue and 32 seconds later pick up the globes, unless you have a conduit running. But that's it. The pack is essentially gone. So those are two rotations. Very powerful, I would say. Rarely.
Yeah, but I mean, this is like best case scenario here.
Of course.
Yeah,
it's a Fire Chains pack on Swarms with pixel stacking elites. Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's best case scenario.
Yeah, this doesn't get better than this, and many builds would do similar on pushing tiers. Like if it doesn't matter if it's like 140 with like, I don't know, Gaudy Edge or whatever, right?
So. Yeah, on the tier that they push at, yes, true. But to be fair, this is not the tier that this build would push at, right? Like if it could go high, if we could go higher, it could, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, but I mean, how many tiers? Maybe 5 more or so, I guess.
Yeah. You say like that's nothing, but yeah, it could go higher. Right?
Yeah, but in 8K Gaudy Age would also do higher than 150. So, if you really fish for it with missile dampenings and stuff like this.
If you get missile dampening, a good boss plus power, then yes, indeed, then you can do it.
It's
but
just
missile dampening is very unfair. Yes, missile dampening is very unfair on GOD.
That's why I don't think GOD should be nerfed. I think they need to deal with missile dampening and how it works with Hungering Arrow.
Yeah, this is also why I suggested to just cap the Hungering Arrow like at 20 pierces or so.
Yeah, perfect.
That's true. Like, so do you have like a rough estimate, like how much stronger? I mean, I've seen the videos, but like on rough estimate, like DPSing and missile dampening versus DPSing and normal yellow. What's as a multiplier? What would you say?
Now let's say there's no waller and no teleporter involved, and this is a yellow that just walks behind you and doesn't go invisible like a snake or some shit. So that's
all the dream. Everything.
Yeah, so that's a normal yellow walking behind you, okay? So I guess that would be something like a ×5 to ×10 multiplier, I guess. Okay. Yeah, at least.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah. All right, so he spawned Perenni. Perenni is not the worst case scenario, but it's definitely one of the worst bosses for this build. You're not happy seeing him, especially because, like, if you watch this unmuted, he was actually a bit afraid to die. Perenni is very hard hitting, and the guys from the top, the falling demons don't help too much. He won't die, and he will kill it in a couple of minutes, right? So he can speed this up again. But he was surprised himself, I suppose, how durable he was, and that's about it. Cleared Perenni pretty quickly and cleared the entirety in 12 minutes.
I mean, at 8K Paragon, you can also play an entire rapid fire, so I imagine you can play any other build too.
What he's trying to say is he is not impressed.
Yes, he's not impressed.
Woody is not impressed by what he's
to
seeing.
be
on
fair,
the screen.
with 8K Paragon, right? Like if we like play this further, right? Assume the first floor is festering swarms and not a average mob set, right? And the second one is once again the swarms layout. And instead of the speed, you have a power with a Hammerlin. Like this is a sub 10 minute clear on that build. Do you think there is any Demon Hunter builds, no matter what setup you give him, with 8K Paragon, you can clear under 10 minutes?
Well, I'm not sure what the top clears are right now on God.
Yeah.
Maybe check, but
Feel free to check.
Is Hammerlin even?
I would say no.
I would also say no.
Is Hammerlin even the best case?
it
I
seems
would.
better.
Yeah,
Wouldn't
Hammerlin
Orlash
the
be
best.
like the dream? Something you can block.
Oh, there's a 930 God DH at 8.3k Paragon. So exactly the same Paragon actually.
Is it
Nine-
obviously
930
non-season then?
It is non-season.
Is that non-season? I think so. Wait, let me check. I mean, it's 8.83 character. It must be non-season.
That's what made me think it was non-season.
Yes,
It
I was
must be
talking about
non-season.
non-season. So let's see again.
That's China or where?
Oh no, that was actually season. Never mind. 8.3k.
Never.
Okay, so
Plus
there's
season
12
theme?
yeah.
Okay.
There's 12k.
Yeah.
12k Paragon, 1120, then 13k Paragon, 1140, 11k, 12 minutes. and
Seems
so on. So
reasonable,
12
all
minutes.
of that. Seems
Yeah,
reasonable.
seems fine. But yeah, so clearly the Crusader is stronger and has surpassed the God DH. I guess it's the best build probably.
And we already said at the beginning of the episode, we're wondering why GOD didn't get a nerf, except for maybe Lex, right? Lex, you weren't really sure, right?
There was.
Well, you
Well, you see,
specifically
if you
know.
nerf GOD though, that you mess up with the speed meta, right? For it.
You do.
And I don't think you should touch the speed meta though, because Mr. Dampening doesn't really affect speed metas that much. So if you just nerf Mr. Dampening, then you can have both. You can have everything, you know.
I agree with you on this one. However, like history has taught us that they balance around solo performance and not around what we play in XP meta. Right? Like else today would still be doing very XP runs, and we're not because Ver got nerfed
Veers
for the
was
sake of
given
solo.
the same treatment, right?
Yes.
Veers had a great speed meta, and then they nerfed it because of its solo performance. So
Correct.
I mean, they should revert that nerf, that 43%.
True, they should. I agree. They should revert that nerf, but likely not going to happen, right?
Be strong again, yeah.
It should just buff Fazula to like 150 stacks instead of 50. That would be much more fun.
At the end. Fazula 150 stack click. Oof.
Yes, yeah.
You know what that's going to do to reverse Archon builds?
Yeah, of
150
course.
stack.
Just break the reverse Archon stuff then anyway.
Yes.
But for Veers, it would be amazing to have many stacks when you enter Archon instead of relying on small trash that you kill. Like you can't kill elites, you can't kill the boss. It's horrible. Otherwise, Veers is super fun to play. So I think this would be a nice fix to buff it and also make it more fun.
To me, Verse is already a lot of fun. Like,
yeah, it is fun, but it's also super annoying when stuff starts dying and then you have like all this 10% elites and you can't kill them. So it's really bad on Veers, I think.
You just it's that snowball thing. It's like you either snowball hard and you feel very powerful, you don't feel powerful at all.
Yes, exactly.
There's no in between.
I mean, I do understand what that specifically means, that you like players who overfocus elites on Verse have huge troubles, right? When you're like,
and not just that, but also it was kind of like reduce the impact of not pressing this number one explosion all the time or attacking all the time.
True.
Because you need to stack your stacks up and so on. Because if you have a higher like baseline stack number, it would just make everything more streamlined basically. So.
Yeah, I think most things in D3 should be able to just be held down and auto-casted though. So that's a major problem just with D3 mechanically, I think.
That is true, but we
a lot of builds have that problem.
Yeah, that is probably a topic for a larger podcast. So jumping topics very quickly here, right?
That's fair.
We're still like on the Crusader.
Take notes, I want to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. It's like we're still technically still at the Crusader here, right? And we went from the way to, does this need a nerf? Does GOD need a nerf? And then does Wizard need a buff? Okay, I like the causal chain there. Let's focus a bit here, right? Like, what do you guys say? Is this nerf territory? Yes or no? Like, I know this is a gun to the chest here, but what do you guys think? Yes or no? Nerf territory?
Yes,
I think it's going to be nerf.
Yes,
I think it will be.
I think like 5 to maybe 8 tiers or so, 8 to 10 tiers nerf.
If a build walks into a PTR with no seasonal buff and has multiple 150 clears, it's gonna get nerfed.
And it should be, because we haven't even pushed properly. We haven't even figured out all the mechanics.
True.
On live, you always have to add a few tiers, because
Correct.
people are just gonna push much harder. They're gonna know much more. Like what sVr explained with the timing of the skills. Who knows if Kika did that right all the time or not? Probably not. So
Yeah, I saw Northwest clear, so on Kika it looked pretty fine to me. I didn't notice any mistakes there, but for Northwest clear, who also did a 150 with 6k Paragon, or 5.9 something, right? And his gear was significantly worse. He definitely did a couple of mistakes there in terms of timings, right?
Yes.
So there's definitely a lot of room for error, I would say, and you still do 150s. And that to me is
that
kind of
definitely
And then
be
you
the
get the
case,
clones,
Yeah.
and you get the 4th cube slot. So
Sure.
Gonna kick it into the next level.
I mean, what will we do here for next season in solo in this setup? Like, what do you guys think should happen?
So
Unity, I guess.
Unity, right? Unity.
yeah, I
I
was
think
wondering
so.
if does it become a more defensive slot? Because the other thing that we haven't really
Icarus
talked about
Awakening.
yet. Oh my goodness, we haven't talked about the fact that you use flash, which I found to be kind of interesting on Iron Skin,
True.
Reflective Skin, because I'm like, oh, why wouldn't you just get more Thorns?
No,
boosting?
because Reflective Skin does almost nothing, so that's
It's
why, I
additive,
guess.
right?
Yes,
Yeah, it just
exactly.
adds to the Invoker. It's basically one more Invoker stack, roughly. So
it's one
kind
more
of-
Invoker stack, exactly. That's
yeah,
how you can see it.
It's pretty worthless. So
So, but here's what I was thinking, right? Is if you get a 4th slot, you could always take Illusory Boots, which is basically what you're taking Iron Skin for. And then could you swap that for a different skill that might be more useful?
I think in that case you would do Iron Skin with increased duration, which means you should have gone like mitigation in the first slot anyways on the slot instead of illusionary boots, they really do help with like steering into an Oculus and like maintaining the spot in an Oculus. Especially like I think like I don't know any builds where like it is so hard sometimes to like get into an Oculus and you really need to. Like it's definitely the thing on Condemned Crusader, right? Where you must play Illu boots, right? Because you must move through the monsters and you must hit them and then pull everything into an Oculus essentially. And it's the same here where Illu boots help a lot, but this time we have the Horsey. And we must play the Horsey for the set anyways. So Illu boots is definitely an option here. Is there anything else you guys can think of, like the question that Leviathan raised about Iron Skin that we could select? If we click the button, we don't have a law equipped, so
yeah, I was
that was
trying
my
law.
first thought.
So law is pretty nice, especially with the long arm to law. So you could probably just take one of these toughness options, and it's like almost the same in every case. You know, one is like a bit more offensive with the reflective skin. The other one is a bit more defensive with the law or with the flash or something like that. So it's a kind of like a tech choice you can do.
God, imagine if they reverted, because back in the day we had Hopeful Cry as a rune on Laws of Hope, and it was the health globe generator, and that was actually how you got your sustain with the Bombardment Crusader. I wish they would bring that back, because we still make a bunch of health globes with the Necro anyway, so like why did the Crusader have to die for that?
I mean, you know the answer, right? You know the answer. Selling DLCs according to Battle.net forums. There's no better reason.
I mean, this is a niche that no other support can fill, so yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
You have 4 supports that are playable, and you have 3 that are not. And the reason is the other 3
Crusader
don't
also
have a
used to
niche.
give more crit chance?
Yes, it was critical. The rune critical.
They
I think it was a higher critical
It was
damage.
100%
crit with it.
It was 100% critical hit damage that you got extra.
But necromancers can cap crit just fine, but satyrs aren't allowed to do it though, right?
Because DLC.
I mean, this here is critical hit damage, right? Yes.
Yeah.
So it was 100%, and it used to be more attack speed, right? Used to be 15% attack speed, I think. When you clicked.
That's right. Or isn't it 15 on activation?
It's
so
8
it
on
was-
passive, 15 on activate.
I think it might have been also more attack speed. I'm not certain. It was definitely so critical. Definitely got nerfed. What a question. What a question. And Hopeful Cry, as you stated, right? Have you guys ever seen Bravery in play? Like, Bravery is one of the few... So let me read for that one quickly. So Bravery is a Crusader law. It's empowering the law also grants immunity to control impairing effects to you and your allies for 5 seconds. Which is essentially Ignore Pain from the Barbarian. It's one of the few, like, global sources of giving Ignore Pain to somebody else. Have you ever seen that one in action? I feel like every single time I look at, like, Support Crusader, I'm like, technically they can replace Bob, because they can give IP to the group. And then suddenly like the Savages set comes in, the 2-piece, and then it's like, well, Bob forever. Let's go.
Well, I think two things need to happen for a support Crusader. One is you need to be able to have multiple laws on your skill bar.
Yes.
And the second is to need a big buff to the draw on quarter. You can maybe add an item that allows you to drag more stuff as you go or something like that. And then you could maybe do something. So
how about like when you activate the horse and you go to monsters, they start being chained, and then you can chain,
exactly.
Like,
so they just start dragging everything in your path.
That is really good, dude.
This would be amazing. Really, and it could be maybe something like a barb, So
that's true.
Yeah, because that is a huge difference with the Ancient Spear versus Drawn Quarter. Drawn Quarter, it used to be a lot better too, but it
that was before the CC nerfs, right? Before knockback would actually increase the CC resistance of a monster, so you can only knock back twice, and then the monster becomes immune, and that's it. Back in the days, you could draw and quarter monsters for ages, right? You could just carry
you
them
could
for
literally pull a whole rift together.
Yes, that was pretty cool. Well, we're pivoting a lot again. We're now at the point of the Crusader and the theory of
let's
the
make another
Crusader.
podcast talking about
specific support classes. It's true, right? After we covered the wizard buffs, kicked up.
Of course.
All right. And then we had the next build that we wanted to talk about is actually a very important one. It's the state-of-the-art trash clearer. I think the person that has played it the most in the setup is Rax, right?
Yeah, played it a lot.
Yeah, how do you like the build? And if you want to give us a quick rundown of how roughly it functions.
Yeah, so the basic idea is you summon your Sims, and your Sims, when you swing, they get the full value of the Ledger's Disdain, right? Because it ignores your maximum essence and your essence generated. So your Sims are supposed to follow right behind you, and when you swing your Scythe, you deal massive damage. You wait for right before your poison cycle, and then you take a bunch of poison skills and cycle through them to build up your Nair stacks. And then if you're in groups, you can either have the Barbarian stun for you, or you can activate your Bone Armor Dislocation to get your Crispin's buff. And the thing about Poison Scythe that's very finicky that I've learned is, first of all, when you swing is very important. You can't just sit around swinging all the time, because then you're going to kill your little trash and you're going to lose all your area damage when you actually swing on poison. So you must swing with purpose, right? Another thing is, if you're playing in solo and you're swinging a little bit more often to try to clear the rift, your Sims won't ever seem to move if you keep swinging.
Yes.
So what I do is when you're halfway through physical and your Sims they're supposed to follow right behind you, but I can guarantee you on almost every pull, they're going to end up every which way facing the wrong direction. It just inevitably happens. It's actually a huge advantage to just completely stand still and do nothing, because that seems to reset your Sims, and they teleport on you, and then you dislocate, and then you swing, and then you kill everything. So that was the lightning fast version of summon your Sims, keep them alive, which can be a task. Swing with purpose, activate your poison stacks, in some way activate your Crispin's Sentence on poison, whether it's the Barb Stomp or your Dislocate. Swing, and they all die. And I think the build is, overall, it's very strong obviously it's insanely strong, but it's because of the bug with the Tragoul's double dipping, which we'll talk about later, which seems to have been ameliorated. The problem is I played this build after I played the God DH, right? And the God DH is just, it can't be CC'd by anything, even if you take the chromes. If you get nightmared on your poison cycle, bye-bye damage, for example. The God DH is so fast, and I wouldn't say that the God DH is stronger, but this season it's not a matter of strength. It's a matter of how many snowballs do you throw. So that was kind of my rundown.
And I'm talking about this season now, or talking about next season now?
About this season.
What? This season.
Yeah, so next season, the one thing that the Poison Scythe can do for sure in solo, if you're kind of a ninja with moving around and moving the monsters around the elites, this is, well, I guess it's going to be harder if they fix the Tragoul's thing, but let's say that if they hadn't fixed that, if you get the trash around the elites, you can kill them. You can expect to kill elites with this build as you go through a festering, and I think a lot of the the advantage of this season, right, is, I'll just wait for the seasonal theme to kill the elites for me. It doesn't matter what I do. But this build is definitely powerful enough with the right pulls, like we were seeing in that Crusader build. If you surround a bunch of Vile Swarms on an elite and take a swing the right way, it's going to hit them quite hard.
So
I mean, next season this build stays pretty much the same, right? Like you lose the Tragul double dip, but you get Rylinas, so it's kind of like plus minus, I guess.
Yes,
it's true. The power level remains the same on this end.
Yeah, so why are we talking about Scythe anyway when there's Bone Spear, which is much more fun and probably it's probably stronger even. So,
you think so?
Have you looked into Bone Spear a lot?
Bone Spear is probably going to do 150, I think, on season. Yeah,
okay.
Solo.
Oh.
I only checked the multipliers and confirmed that everything is working and there are no shenanigans. Like everything on Bone Spear is a separate multiplier, thumbs up. No shenanigans, nothing is additive to anything. It's not like, what is it, Rapid Fire Demon Hunter, right? Where the Demon Hunter community didn't test enough to get their shit fixed. But everything works on Bone Spear.
Wait, what's wrong with Rapid Fire?
Rapid Fire is additive, right?
Vojani is Alta?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Is it not anymore?
No, it's the only legendary affix in the game that's additive, I think, right?
Yeah, that's why you test things, right?
Yeah. I think it's the only one. But you can do Legacy and the normal one, the new one together. If you If you have an old one.
You can actually do the same thing, so that's another one on the bug report list. You can do the same thing with Fragment of Destiny. If you guys ever wanted to see a 17 attack speed Spectral Blade wizard,
is that the noise that it makes? I'm going to have to enable game sound to hear that.
And then at Sigil too, right?
Come again?
So, and at Sigil also, right? They left the Legacy at Sigil.
Oh, you can do double ES with twisters?
On the PTR, they leave the old ones. I mean, they should definitely change the old ones to be the new ones because there's a problem if you're leaving those Legacy at Sigils and Fragment of Destinies.
Yes, there's definitely a problem. I mean, 17 stricken stacks per second is a problem, on Wizard. That can lead to some non-season legacy shenanigans. What a question. You should not be allowed to double equip Fragment of Destiny or add Sigil.
That would be funny, though. I'd like to see that.
We had double multi-shot, right? Like the first Yanks recurve that actually stack. Like you could...
Yes.
Yeah, you could. It was very pew-pew. You had a lot of multi-shot attack speeds. Demon Hunter go brrr. That was pretty crazy.
Oh man, start stepping with that. I would like to do that.
Yeah,
I feel like that's kind of been the way that it's always like, Blizzard doesn't care about non-seasonal. Like, let's just be real. So they've always it's been a cesspool.
I don't either, so I'm with Blizzard.
Real question, who does, right? And there's like those 5, non-season players are like, here.
They're so mad.
I mean, how long did it take for them to unequip the Natalia Shadows 2-piece from this one guy? This was like a year or longer even.
Or more,
That guy, did you know that guy actually complained on the forums?
Yeah, there was a lot of complaining going on for this one guy, one Russian dude with Shadows 2-piece and a dagger and a one-handed crossbow equipped.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah. But Leviathan, you were talking about non-season and then you got awfully interrupted by jokes.
Yeah, but my point was that I don't think that they need to necessarily go back and fix the legacy stuff because it kind of allows for some just off, meta weird shenanigans. And I think that stuff is okay to exist in non-seasonal if you just accept that non-seasonal isn't really a balanced place or a thing that, a lot of people take seriously.
Yeah, I agree with that because, these days there's not really a competition non-season. You have like these Paragon 14,000 people. Like there's no competition. Like there's like 5 people that do something on non-season and everyone else just kind of like does their own thing. So I think it's totally fine to have like some maybe kind of like crazy broken, as long as it's not completely breaking the game. As long as you're not doing like solo 2 minutes 150 all the time with some crazy stuff, I'm totally fine with having this. Like,
usually we use non-season as a gauge of balance, right, for a lot of things. So that's going to just, how are you going to gauge non-season balance now without like season themes?
That's true. That's
I mean, they're taking non-seasonal builds for balancing, but it still comes down to like they're not looking at a 12k Paragon guys for balance. I guess that doesn't make any sense. Yeah. There's no reason to balance around that.
I don't know. I think that's a very fair point, though, Woody. Like, I think Lex brought up. Like, imagine next season we have a season of crafting, okay? And you can loot an item, and you have an infinite amount of mystic rolls that you can do. So you find one COE, you take that COE, and then you can roll it into a perfect COE immediately, right? And you only need to find like one version of each item, right? Which also means you can create items that couldn't exist on non-season, right? You can actually create a non-crit COE without main stat, which doesn't exist, right, on non-season, and so on. You could create like the most ridiculous item affix combinations and then move those items to non-season. They stick in non-season, and then you continue this.
Change much in the grand, like, you know, like a COE that has instead of strength, you have like another, like, I don't know, area damage roll or so. I mean, how much character power is that? Like 5% more, 8%
No.
more?
Let me continue, right? And then you do this for multiple seasons. You have like, you essentially have seasonal effects where something gets merged into non-season, and then you have builds on non-season because you didn't care for non-season that you can't read balance from. You do a balance change or a patch, but nobody is equipping your new items because everybody is fucking around with legacy items on non-season, breaking the game. Like, they are clearing 150 in 60 seconds. How can you, like, you look at the items, so like, yeah, that tells me nothing for season and what's good on season or how the balance looks like. Like, this is what happens to non-season if you just
It kind of gates new players too, right? Like, yeah, new players just won't be able to compete with old players.
Yeah, but this is already the case on non-season.
This is already the case.
Yeah.
Non-season has no competition. That's the whole point.
I don't know. I guess I still push non-season because, like, this season on season 21, I didn't feel like doing the RNG with the season theme. So I actually enjoyed pushing on non-season. So maybe it's just me.
But also you have, like, I don't know, how many Paragons? Like 5-6K, I assume.
Well, 6,600. 6,600.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Like, this is nothing that anyone has, you know? Like... So this is.
Well, I think that goes to the problem of infinite paragons in general.
Sure,
different topic.
Yes.
That's a different topic.
This is definitely. I think this is an interesting topic, though. Like, it's a little out of scope, but I just want to throw one thing in there because it almost reminds me of to bring in another game, Hearthstone. Right? They have the wild version where all the cards go, and then they have standards. So I think if you want to look at, it's so many different ways to look at it, but I think you would just have to move where your balance sort of checkpoints are to not necessarily thinking about non-seasonal as a place where the balance exists. Because if you want all these cool items, and I think it actually also, your point sVr from, if we had a crazy season with crafting and stuff, it limits what you can do with seasonal themes and stuff. If you want to say we can't let crazy items go into non-seasonal has to stay pristine, then you're going to always limit what happens from seasonal since you can't transfer all that stuff into non-seasonal.
True. I mean, the solution, like, we had a discussion about exactly something like this. What if a season theme is too powerful in terms of how it defines your items or your character or anything that moves into non-season later on, right? It was a very interesting discussion at BlizzCon. And a lot of players standing there, I'm not sure if you were also in a discussion, Leviathan. It was on the community evening last year. But the takeaway was, like, the players were saying, that's fine, just void the season. Like, when you open the season, you know, when you play a hardcore character, it says, if you die, that's it, right? There should be, like, if one season is super crazy, and it's like, if you participate in the season, anything you get in the season dies with the season.
Yeah, I think that's very unlikely for Blizzard to do so.
It's unlikely for Blizzard, but that would actually fix this issue of being afraid to deliver absolute crazy stuff.
This season would have to be insane, you know?
Yes, like
but what is more insane than just going to GR150 solo anyway? So how much more insane
that's
should
a different problem. That's a different problem.
Yeah.
The cap is a different
I mean, how much
problem.
more insane should it get, you know? Like, that's the thing. Like, how good can these items be? How crazy can your character be, you know? That's,
I just think you don't care about non-seasonal. Like, think about another example, PoE, right? We just had Harvest, where you could craft literally perfect, insane god tier items. They all went to standard. Who cares?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Who cares? Why not have these crazy items?
I still care.
To be fair, but as long as also, go ahead, Woody.
No, I mean, as long as you're not adding like 4 more primaries to every item or so that go to non-season, and then they have, like, you know, some gloves with like double crit and cooldown and area and attack speed and resource and auras and life per hit, then, you know, it's totally fine. As long as you don't let it go, you know, completely out of hand compared to what is already there, then I think it's okay. You know, if there's like one build or so that gets like some legacy edge sigil, then okay, so be it. You know, why not? It's just that people experiment with this.
I agree with Woody here. When I think about non-seasonal, there's like 2 things you can look at, right? There's like pushing and competing on non-seasonal, which to me is completely meaningless, and to the 5 people that it matters to, you guys can win. You guys you guys are winners. Here's your trophy. You got with your 14,000 guns and your crazy combinations. And then the other aspect of it is balancing around non-seasonal. But I guess maybe I'm putting too much faith in Blizzard, but I have the faith that if someone puts on a crazy, ridiculous build with tons of legacy items, that we could weed through that, right, and not balance around that. It's like, oh, that guy is dominating because of this bullshit combination. So I'm not really afraid about the balancing. And there's 5 people in the world who care about the pushing. So I mean, I'm with Woody here. I don't care what happens. I don't care. I don't think it could get that crazy, and I don't care how crazy it gets because it's non-season.
Yeah,
I think the middle ground between Woody and Lex is that you can introduce crazy things into non-seasonal, but I guess you draw the line when access becomes a thing and when it's like game-changing mechanics things, right? So if you have these items that are just mechanics that you literally can't get because those legacy items don't exist anymore, and so certain players will be able to make those builds and certain ones can't, then maybe you're overstepping. But like
I don't think legacy items will create. This legacy edge sigil will be basically the only way to play Meteor Shower Wizard or something. I don't know. Maybe you can also do a Meteor Shower Wizard without it. But there's like this typical channeling build with Meteor Shower, for example. So this can't be done in the future. Yeah, this can't be done anymore. Maybe they introduce another item for this in the future and so on. Exactly. But right now, this is not an OP build. This is nothing crazy. Just let it be on non-season for those people that loved it in the past. Then they can play it there. I mean, why not?
Oh, see, they changed the death wishes, right? The old death wishes were updated with the 1 second channeling requirement. It seems like it's pretty easy just to like do the same to Sigil and Fragment of Destiny, and then just kind of like, I guess if you don't care about balance, that's fine. But like, just to try to prevent any problems in the future from arising, just easily just fix it.
I guess the biggest issue is that such an unattainable build should not be the meta for non-season. If everyone has to play this legacy stuff in order to do anything on the ranking or so, if there's like by far the best build and there's nothing that comes close to it, then that's an issue. But if you have other builds that do the same or better, then I don't see a problem at all.
That's a fair point.
All right, we pivoted again. Slightly from the actual topic to generic discussions about how to balance and if at all to ignore non-season. Definitely some strong opinions in here on this end. But let's move once again a step back into what we actually are here to talk about, and that's the Poison Scythe Necro, which right now is still the status quo trash killer. Besides the season theme, still the status quo trash killer, and probably still one of the strongest builds in the game. Rex already pointed out that there has been an issue with it, and it was that the simulacrums that would swipe with Grim Scythe would actually double dip, or how some people like to call it, double dick, with the Tragul's multiplier, right? And for the few people that are wondering what double dipping means, it's essentially when a multiplier double dips, it means that you actually gain benefit from it twice. So in this case, Tragul's gives a ×3 multiplier for your character when you swipe, and when the simulacrum swipe, it gives another ×3 multiplier. So they will overall have a ×9 multiplier only from Tragul's. Blizzard fixed it, but they fixed it in a very lazy way, which unfortunately has some collateral damage for the class. And what they did is they said something amongst the following logic. If Necro has Tragul equipped, and if a pet hits something, then apply square root of the Tragul's multiplier. That's about it, which means for simulacrums, square root of 9 is free, so they will use the correct Tragul's multiplier. But anything else, skeleton mages, golems, command skeletons, they will hit for square root of Tragul's, which is 1.73 something. Which means you only get a 1.73 something multiplier from Tragul's for your skeleton mages, or for your command skeletons, or for your golem, which is probably an oversight. It is definitely a bug, so this is a bug report. This needs to get fixed. It doesn't make sense that if you play Tragul's, now your skeleton mage for some reason gets less benefit from it, right?
Yeah, it's a very odd fix.
It's a weird way to fix rats.
Oh, we found why they did it.
It's a weird step, right? So, that one is an issue. We hope to see the proper fix, which means there should be the full benefit from Dragoons for everything, and not a double dip for simulacrums. That's how it should be. So we hope to see a change on this end. And another issue is that's also something that Rex pointed out is the Ledger's Disdain, right? It still is, unfortunately, the case that Ledger's Disdain is completely ignoring your essence for your simulacrums, right? Mm-hmm. So if your simulacrums are hitting 60 targets, then it's 60 times 12 essence that they would restore. And even though this is more than your essence pool contains, so they completely.
Yeah, but at this point, if they fix that, then this build is completely dead. So I guess you could just say this is the intended way of playing the build right now, because this is like the it's just good enough for 150 and the trash clearer. Mm-hmm. But if you fix the ledgers, then this is completely gone. This is like minus 10 tiers or so, I guess, right? So
is that I mean, that's a question about. I don't mind if they fix that issue, but increase the multiplier. I'm okay with that one.
Okay, I could do that. But,
right, but just in terms of like mechanics, that they ignore how much essence you have and what your current essence is, means you don't need to dump like essence dump with Singularity
Mage.
But like I remember like creating this build after testing the mechanics, and we played it, and everybody in chat was, "You don't have Singularity, this doesn't work. You don't have Singularity, this doesn't work." And the answer is no, because you don't care what your character's doing. You only care about the simulacrums, because guess those dudes, they don't care about essence. They don't care how much essence you have, how much maximum essence you can have. They just simply don't care. So it's like everybody's like super confused, because every single time you think about Generator Necro, it's like, all right, so you must essence dump with Singularity, but you don't here. And it's due to skimmed bullshit mechanics that shouldn't be the way it is. So this is hopefully something that we can get fixed at some point. And as Woody pointed out, this is a significant nerf. Like, it doesn't dump the build into like, F tier. But compensation, sure. I'm happy to see compensation when you nerf something or when you straighten out mechanics.
But do you actually enjoy this? Like, especially Rex has played this a lot. Do you actually enjoy this? Like Scythe, Necro?
I mean, I would have liked it a lot more if I didn't play God DH first. I mean, that really it really ruined it, man. To be honest.
Honestly, I don't see a problem with just like replacing this for Foreman. Don't make it super terrible, but just give us something else. Bone Spear, for example.
The thing is the play style of it is very basic, right? You rotate your poison skills and then you swing a scythe, and then so it's like, okay, well, how do I become like an elite player playing this? And then it's like, well, it's learning how to tap dance and make your simulacrums teleport to you and face the right way, and that's not very fun to do. So yeah, I kind of agree with Woody. It's definitely not the most cerebral build. It's not overly fun, and it's not really fun to do solo push and just walk around. You don't have a golem, no golem. He's gonna throw bone spears and hope that they chase you. Just going through a walk through the park, and then the poison comes, and God, I hope these 5 elites I pulled, I hope none of them have nightmare, because otherwise I'm gonna do 0 damage.
Talking about walking, they really have to add an item to Wizard that forces you to use teleport, please. Yeah, just make it like a 300% multiplier after using teleport. I don't know. Just I'm so sick of playing no teleport Wizard. There's many buffs and crazy builds. They're super strong, whatever. But you never have teleport, and sometimes not even illusory boots. So you just have to rely on fucking Archon or walking around or twistering some stuff into the corner so you can actually move. It's horrible. Please.
Seems like you played a bit of Hydra, right?
Yeah, yeah. I played reverse Archon Hydra, for example.
Okay, yeah.
They just need a Norvald set for the wizard.
Yes.
But part of the thing there, which I think might change in Diablo 4, and I think it might overall be a better thing. And I'm not trying to open up like this gigantic topic like we keep doing. Matt's gonna kill me. But the thing about
today we roam free. Go.
We're beyond that.
Can we do a 3-hour stream?
Yes.
The thing about Diablo 3 is it's this game that we have like trained ourselves to either zip through insanely fast or to make these like gigantic, ridiculous pulls with area damage that should never really be possible to try to like climb the leaderboards, right? And I think in Diablo 4, the idea is going to be, again, a lot more cerebral. You're going to go a little bit slower. You're going to have to think about your cooldowns a lot more. You're not going to move at the speed of light. You're not going to have these 2-minute cooldowns where you can stack so much cooldown reduction that you spam them all the time and it does these ridiculous things. So, I mean, that's part of the problem. Like, again, to compare God DH to Poison Scythe Necro, the two like S tier solo builds, I'm zipping around, pulling everything. I'm immune to everything. This is amazing. I can throw my seasonal buffs exactly where I want. And now I'm walking with a scythe with two dumbasses following behind me that never do what I ask them to. I'm CC'd infinitely. It's terrible. It's terrible.
Exactly. Please teleport. Thank you. And also Blood Rush in that
What
case.
Woody got from that was buff tell.
Yes, dude, I'm surprised. Woody,
like when you have no teleport and no CC reduction and it's just terrible. This is terrible gameplay, terrible design.
I agree,
and it sucks. So, but it's
it
the
has
best
to do
option.
with it has to do with us having to squeeze out as much possible damage in defense as possible because of the way that GR system works, and it's always increasing enemy HP and the damage you take. So I think that that's just another kind of fundamental flaw with D3 right now. I'm actually excited that they're not doing this infinite like creep thing for dungeons for D4.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, wow, we're on the second plan and we already reached the topic D4. You guys are flying.
I'm sorry.
You guys are flying. I'm also very surprised, like, having Woody on the podcast, I could never imagine like having one sentence where the words wizard and buff are contained in the same sentence. It's like,
I don't hate wizards.
it's just a
Wizard
very
was
strong,
actually after Demon Hunter. Wizard was actually my second most played class by very far behind, but
you're very far behind.
It was my second most played
By a
class
huge
in vanilla. Okay, I used to farm Hell Act 4 with Archon. Starting at Iskatu and on the first boss, and you have 5 minutes Archon, and you go to Diablo. That was what I farmed.
Now we reached vanilla. Wow.
Yeah.
yes. So Lexy, just to straighten things up, you're main wizard, right? You identify as main wizard, I guess. That's correct. Maybe a bit witch doctor. Oh, what is like your top 3
Wizard's
classes?
definitely my most played for sure. Yeah, by a large margin, like 5,000 hours in Wizard or something. Yeah. So yeah.
And Levi, for you, it's still like it's always like on the fence for you, right? Crusader and Demon Hunter, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a cusp thing. I think it kind of has gone in waves, but I definitely have my most hours on DH. But I think the second after that is Crusader, and surprisingly, the Barb is pretty close too.
And Rax, how's it looking for you?
I'm Barb by a mile.
Barb. Like, I
Barb by
rarely
a
see you
mile.
play Barb, unfortunately, though. It's the Reds.
Leap Quake
Yeah.
time.
Leap Quake.
It's definitely not Leap Quake time.
What? You're gonna farm Reds all season. You're gonna have an insane Leap Quake here. I'm gonna do that. So we can have a competition Leap Quaking around.
All right, I'm down. I'll throw it. Why not?
There we
Why
go.
not?
Oh, the Leap Quake challenge in here. All right.
Leap Quake challenge. You even get convention in season 22.
You're not going to get me excited for Leap Quake. What about Focus and Restraint for the Whirlwind Barb? I'll go do that.
Yeah, it's the same stuff as it doesn't change the builds. It's kind of whatever. Just do like your 140 again with like 4K Paragon or so, and that's it. So same as season 20.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next build to discuss, which is actually essentially generic, any energy twister idea you can come up with. In here we have an ETDMO and an ET Archon. There are also LOD variants of this. The LOD variants with Archon is, I think, the highest DPS output possible, but we're looking at the ETDMO one just to point out a couple of issues that the build has, or the current state has, of Energy Twister. Unfortunately, it's not really that good, be it next season or right now for non-season in terms of balance. We are still essentially pigeonholed into playing Deathwish, right? And Deathwish has been a very large topic within the community for quite some time. For the people that are not really aware on the stream how Deathwish actually works, now it reads while channeling Arcane Torrent, Disintegrate, or Ray of Frost for at least 1 second, all damage is increased. So what you would take from that one is, after channeling for 1 second, you get the buff, and when you stop channeling, you lose it. That's how you would naively think it should work. Unfortunately, that's not how it works. The way it works is if you, let's say, channel for half a second and then you stop channeling, half a second later, the buff will arrive. It arrives 1 second later, and for half a second, you'll get the buff. And you can do this for as short of amounts that you want to do it. For instance, you can channel for 10 frames, and then wait for 50 frames, and then in the next 10 frames, you will have the buff open.
One question right now.
Yes, go ahead.
Do you know, is this exactly the same behavior as Mantle of Channeling right now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's
exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing. Mantle of Channeling has the same thing, just for dispatch. Mantle of Channeling is getting reverted, right, to its normal state, where it instantly works, activates and deactivates. And here it's just, you essentially get the buff 1 second later. Everything is by 1 second late. And this leads to some pretty awful gameplay with a lot of abilities. For instance, you actually don't want to really perma-cast twisters all the time. What you want to do is you want to cast a twister, channel for a specific time, preferably as small as possible, and then cast another twister, and you want to sync all twisters to tick at the exact same frame. And every single time they tick, you want to have the Death Wish buff up, which means 1 second before the tick, you should have channeled.
All right, there's like some weird stuff when they're all ticking at the same time. What was that again? Or is that fixed now?
No,
from season 6.
So that was something entirely else. That was something with Stricken. Yeah, that also existed.
Okay.
That was with Stricken. But no, here in this scenario, you would try to cast in a way such that all your twisters, when they spawn, are in the exact same rotation, so they all tick on the same frame, right? That is how you would attempt to do it.
So what would be the difference between just like holding down channeling and just weaving in the twisters every second, once every second? Wouldn't that be the same?
Sure. It depends on how much attack speed you have and when you cast them, technically.
Right.
Like, you need
I guess
to
if you're
map it
expecting
out.
to manual cast more than 1 per second, then it becomes an issue.
Yeah, it becomes an issue.
Then right.
Correct.
Yeah.
So this is pretty, like, the way you look at it, a lot of people would say, so I hold down the twister button until I have like 20 of them, and then I hold down channeling, and I hold down channeling until all twisters disappear. This would unfortunately not be the way to play it. It is actually channel and then weave a twister and channel, weave a twister and then do it high frequently. And hopefully...
You're getting the Etch Sigil proc too, right? Like the one twister from that. Yes. So usually I just listen for the Etch Sigil proc twister and then manual cast. Listen for the next one, then manual cast, and just keep doing that.
Yeah, that sounds something that is like horrible to play.
This is correct. This is essentially the takeaway was this issue.
And this can be automated, in a way that is much stronger than whatever anyone can do. So that sounds horrible.
And
I guess that's just a fourth cube slot problem right now, right? For next season.
So I tried this yesterday, and we got a 4-man team, and I tried the Wicked Wind, and what's the other one? Rapid something.
Raging Storm.
Raging Storm. Thank you. Raps. Raging Storm. Tried them both, and so we have a 4 corner sands with Vile Swarms. Okay, we walk in the door and we go to the first tee only. We're standing there, and we pull the Vile Swarms just there. I put down a tornado or two. I start channeling. Gone. There's no way. Everyone's locked up until we're all dead. Just to give you an idea of. So then what we did is we pulled half of the Vile Swarms from the tee out. So that I don't know if chat can follow this, but it's not that much. It's not that much trash. We pull it out, so there's like 20 monsters, and try it again, and it's like now it's not like completely freezing the game, but it's just I'm playing like, I don't know, 5 frames a second or 5 frames on my stream or whatever, and it's just completely unplayable from a lag. And I don't know if it's like a PTR thing, but we tried stupidly. We didn't even have that good of a map. We have a cathedral. We go into a room. We pulled, a decent pack. Dude, 1 twister, and it's over. It was just unplayable. Tried like 5 rifts, couldn't do anything, and then I just left.
I have an idea. Why don't they just make an item that gives you Wicked Wind Rune and Raging Storm, and you can add more twisters onto this one twist. You have like 1 twister only, and it just keeps adding into 1 big super twister, and that would solve the lags. That would solve a lot of the other stuff. And
That's
it would
pretty
probably
good.
be very fun as well, I guess. Just make
So
a
all
mega
twisters-
tornado.
Yeah,
and
all
just-
twisters are merging and it
Yeah,
becomes
exactly.
just a
And then
big
it grows
fucking
into
twister.
10 stages, let's say 10 stages, you know, and have like a fucking twister that goes like half the screen, and it's just like a fucking tornado.
To be fair,
and
this should be the twisted sword.
Yeah.
Like it literally
Yes.
should be the
Yes.
twisted sword.
Yeah,
just stack them all into one and then go ham, you know.
that sounds
That's
cool.
actually a
So back
very
in,
good
like,
idea.
So back in like season 5 or 6 when we were doing Twister meta, I don't remember the lag being that bad. So why do you think the lag is so bad now?
I mean, so
Because
first of all,
it was playable.
yeah, PTR has is known to have horrible performance.
Yeah,
like it's just
maybe
known
it's just
to
the
have, like,
PTR.
Yeah.
Because you would think if they cut the ticks down in half, right? They went from half a second to 1 second now, right?
correct. The ticks. So that's a
and
hidden
we
change.
are
Hidden
also-
change. Yes.
Yeah, so I would think that it would still be playable. I don't know.
One would hope, right? So it has now the same
Mhm.
tick frequency as. Sorry, no. So Phantasm still is at 30 frames, right? And you have 3 Phantasms out in like sitting in 40 targets. And in comparison, it's like 3 twisters ticking with 60 frames should be half the ticks overall in terms of like how many computations you have. But we're not playing 3 twisters, right? We're playing like 15 twisters, 10 twisters, something in that area.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But Woody's idea would actually, yes, if it sticks to be one twister
One.
instance and you just make a tornado bigger,
Maybe it's the area damage.
sure, hitting a lot of targets, area damage. It's a lot of
It
calculations.
usually does it.
I mean, another way
Fire
to
bat.
maybe another way to solve this would be to force you into never doing this weird like channeling playstyle, and then like casting many lanes on, remove the proc coefficient from the Raging Storm, and then if you have no proc coefficient, no area damage, I guess that would probably also solve the lags. But like this
No,
is some
please,
sort
no.
of terrible.
No.
But, yeah.
Don't,
I really like I really like building. I really
No.
like building this huge tornado. So let's do
Alright,
that, I guess.
muting Woody. Muting Woody.
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Of course
It's
it
like
can-
everybody gets to play air damage, just not wizard. It's like
Yeah.
what?
I
Like
mean,
if you do the
you
same
should be
thing
happy.
for
You
all
can
classes.
roll actual stats in your items.
What do you mean? It's an actual
Yeah,
stat.
and without area damage, you can actually kill elites. I mean,
All
Yeah,
right.
you were just saying you like weird gear with the thorn stuff. Yeah,
True,
make
true, right?
No area damage wizards.
Yes.
I
No.
mean, Spirit Barrage, yeah, you don't go area damage.
Sure, but that one is emulating air damage, right? The mechanic itself, it's
Right.
kind of
Yeah.
emulating air damage. So that's a different story. But yes,
So sVr though, I would ask you, just
Mm-hmm.
this is more like a flavor question, but you really enjoyed the Twister meta back when that was that like season 7?
season 6, yeah.
Season
And
6.
5. Yes. I
So is this poised to bring any of that sort of flavor back, or do you feel like it's just
Yeah.
it's like nice, but it's not going to do enough for the wizard?
So yeah, if
Now
you
without
play,
stacking.
yeah, if you play something, then you must play Wicked Wind right now. Like Raging Storm is just straight up not feasible. And it's just like the shooting in a line. Maybe there's a way to play it in solo, but I don't really see it. In group, there's definitely no way to really do it. So you must play Wicked Wind. So what I felt is that we need to be granted the Wicked Wind rune on Valtex, on the staff. Like it must
Yep.
grant Wicked Wind essentially, so you can play Raging Storm. I like Woody's idea a lot to like get rid of the lag with the Twisted Sword. Like if the Twisted Sword would actually be you build one bigger twister all the time and it just stacks up. That's essentially equivalent of placing multiple twisters with the difference of just removing a shit ton of server calculations. So I like the idea a lot. That would already lead it to a playable playstyle, I suppose. How does it feel in comparison to Season 6? Yeah, I liked Season 6 and 5 a lot for the Twister, for playing Twister. One reason was definitely the skill cap to be able to stack. Like to be one of the few wizards who have no issues like teleporting in front of the corner and immediately start stacking Twisters, right? Without a delay, without like, it's not stacking, right? And then like a 5-second delay before the DPS comes in. So that was a cool thing. This is definitely not needed anymore because, you auto stack with Wicked Wind. Like it's trivial to do so. I just don't move
I just think
cursor.
the mock-up of how I would like to have this twister in the chat.
I don't see this.
Yeah, basically like this, just like it grows and grows and grows. It's like what the circle should represent.
Yeah, unfortunately I can't see it, dude.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So and then it's kind of like the size that it should be at the end, kind of like some mega big thing. And then it, as basically the individual timers run out, it will maybe shrink again, based and so on. So go dynamically up and down. I think that would be cool.
So real quick, Matt, just to let you know, we have about an hour left. We've kind of bounced around everywhere on the topics. So we got about an hour left, and we've got potentially some of the things that you had on suggestions for the next iteration and changes and the seasonal theme and stuff like that. Just letting you know.
Correct. So let's move on to the next section, I suppose. Thanks for keeping time. So yeah, in the next segment, we actually wanted to discuss, if we could provide some ideas on things that we would choose to change based on the current iteration. What would we actually do? We just finished with Wizard, essentially, so I think we quickly discussed the Death Wish issue of it being different than you expect it to be, and it leading to some frequent channeling and doing something else to sync tick rates. Do you guys feel like channeling with Death Wish needs to go? Like, this would be like the first question that I pose. Does Death Wish on Wizard need to go or need to be reworked into something else?
I think the problem is just the next season mainly, right? Because the 4th cube slot. So it's like a temporary problem. For example, like Hydro feels very, very good without having to channel. It just feels so good. It's completely different. Like, right, without channeling, it's like you don't have to babysit your Hydras anymore. You don't have to sit there and channel. It's
very,
like
very
you can
fun,
actually just walk away.
Yeah,
it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, but unfortunately, next season with the 4th cube slot, you have to use Death Wish to gain your maximum damage now, and then now you're forced back into a channeling build when they were trying to move away from it. So yeah, it's a temporary problem for next season.
Yeah, but the problem is that people are hyped for those changes now, and they're not going to be hyped for it 2 seasons from now.
I agree.
Yeah.
So
I agree for sure.
I think just in general, this Death Wish mechanic, it's going to come back. And not the season after maybe, but another season again. There's always going to be this Death Wish in the back of our heads, and we always had to just start stepping with channeling and then Death Wish. It sounds horrible. This has to go. So. And then just buff the items a bit more for Hydra and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Oh, I totally. But balance it without Death Wish. I'm totally for that for sure. Because after the season's done and we don't have Death Wish, the builds right now just don't have enough damage anyways. So yeah.
So it might not be a real issue for the upcoming season, but as Woody pointed out, like, I'm not sure, is it like an international saying, like the Damocles sword that is hanging above you? Like, is that a thing? I'm not sure if that is
Damocles sword is
I'm not sure if there's an English translation for that one, but that's how it feels, right? There's like the sword from the ceiling that could drop anytime and kill you, essentially. And in this case, it's a Death Wish that at any point could like screw up wizard builds significantly, such that they are straight up unplayable. So I agree with Woody's takeaway. Like, for me, even though it's not an issue next season, Lex, yes, it is not. It's only an issue next season and might not be in the future. It could be at any point. And just the sheer possibility is enough for me to say Death Wish needs to go. Like, yes, is that a firm wizard nerf? It is. But for wizard to become better, it first needs to become worse, unfortunately. And in this case, it's Death Wish needs to go.
I guess I agree.
An open play field.
Yeah. Like, I agree that if they just remove Death Wish completely and balanced all 3 builds without it, then I would be happy to, yeah. And the 4th cube slot doesn't have to be huge. That's fine.
So another thing that was brought up when we talked about it on the other podcast was the thing that I'm not a wizard main, so I can't speak from experience, but it seems like all the time with like Death Wish and Etch Sigil, it's like really forcing like a certain playstyle. Like, you're always channeling to get these buffs. It's like it would be way more interesting if they could come up with different ways, like maybe like introduce teleport as a way to help you do damage, because that's what I'm sure Woody wants to hear. So I better say that. But something other than always just setting your skills around and just standing around and channeling. Like, that does not fulfill the fantasy of me of being a wizard and the god of magic.
Yeah, I think maybe they could just make Death Wish into an actual item that buffs the shit out of the actual channeling skills, and then just be done with it. Just make it like a disintegrate build. People like disintegrate, And I would also play a Disintegrate build if it was somehow cool and viable. Because why not? Disintegrate is an amazing skill.
I mean, the coolest
channeling build
skill.
should be doing damage with channeling skills, right?
Yeah, exactly. And right now you only use those skills, and it's always the same one. It's always Arcane Torrent with either Stake Discharge if you're resource stuffed, or with the Flame Ward if you're not. So there's no other channeling skills used. No one gives a fuck. And this is just so bad,
channeling is only on Wizard. Channeling skills are only a catalyst to activate something, but you never use them for the sake of channeling. Yes, it is a sad story. That is true. The only one that we've seen maybe is Ray of Frost, right? With like the reduced resource cost one. Like it only costs like 10 arcane power or something. Just so you could channel it quicker or faster after a start pack that used to be played at some point. And elsewise, I think like the coolest channeling skill on Wizard is Sleet Storm, like Ray of Frost Sleet Storm. It got reworked at some point where you build up like this dome of ice around you and it's spinning, right? That one looks really cool, but we've never used it. So there are some capabilities there, and it scales really well with Pain Enhancer, just saying. Like Pain Enhancer with the A of E channeling thing is really, 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 really good. It's an easy breakpoint.
It's like Fire Bats.
It's like Fire Bats, exactly.
For GR60 or what are we talking?
Yeah, exactly, for GR60. Man. It's fucking kick-ass, dude. Good burn, though.
So like Matt said, like, I don't know, when I think of like the channeling builds or whatever, it makes sense to me in my mind for like Whirlwind. You channel Whirlwind to apply Rend. For God DH, you channel Strafe to apply the Hungering Arrow. But it's like, I'm a wizard, I'm laying my Hydras, they kill everything, and now I'm channeling a beam to make my Hydras hit hard. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
No, it doesn't make sense. The Blizzard doesn't make sense either, yeah. None of it makes sense.
Yeah, that's the next thing, yeah. Like, yeah.
Well, thematically, I guess they thought like, Blizzard is, like an ice skill if you don't use a Fire Rune for more AoE. And then you have the Hydras, proccing this ice around them all the time with Frost Nova. I don't know. So it kind of goes together, I guess, in that sense. But yeah.
Dude,
it's
Winter Flurry.
It's actually something I suggested. Like I suggested to add Blizzard to the Hydra set because I thought it would be amazing to use Blizzard in some way, and they did. And I honestly actually enjoy playing around with Blizzard. So I think that's pretty cool. You have to kind of like find the right spot to put it and the right timing because of Arcane Dynamo and so on. So it actually makes it interesting instead of just running around and putting some Hydra somewhere. So
now everybody knows where to complain because on the first episode we complained about this.
I think it's quite possible they took up my suggestion with the Blizzard.
It's very much a throwback to vanilla with the poison Hydras and the Blizzard, kiting forever.
Oh my god, dude, that's so old school. Yes, it is. I didn't even see that one. Yeah, Poison Hydra. Holy shit, that's a long time ago, man. With Blizzard, you're right. It came from that time. No, but in the first episode, we bashed that item pretty heavily because I think Bloodshed said this item has an identity crisis. It has Frost Nova, Blizzard, and Hydra. It's like, can we, get like one clear line at least, maybe? So that was something that was stated, and I kind of agree. Like, I don't think that it's like, oh, we can drop channeling skills in the future, not next season, but in the future for Hydra, and then, oh, I need to pick Blizzard. I don't think that feels well, and it really fits in there. But I can, like, I initially wanted to have a Blizzard set, another Hydra set, and now we need to play Blizzard, but it's not for the sake of Blizzard. It's just so your Hydras hit harder. I don't really see it.
Okay, no one likes it. Yeah, sorry.
So
I played Hydra and I found it pretty cool. Honestly,
where can people find you again?
I think I'm gonna wait and hide somewhere for a while.
All right, so
let the smoke clear.
Yeah, so we discussed Deathwish and Winter Flurry so far. Do you want to like close out on the Wizard at this point? Is there anything else you guys want to like? Obviously, it's right now it's a Wizard balance patch more or less, right? We have Wizard and Crusader changes, so it makes sense that we talk a lot about Wizard. But is there anything else on Wizard you guys want to see changed right now for the next iteration? Is there
4-piece of Hydra set, please.
I was just going to ask how you feel about Typhons, yeah.
All right. 4-piece Hydra. I think everybody still agrees on this one. The vicious cycle of getting less Hydra heads, try to not get hit, and then cry a lot. Because you didn't only lose damage.
It's such a, you can see where they were coming from. Like, it's good flavor in terms of like, really caring about your Hydras and such, but it just doesn't work in the way that we play Diablo 3 right now.
Correct.
Well, the thing is that I don't know, like if you have the setup that the way it's supposed to be played with shields, then it doesn't really matter the 4-piece, I think. So it's only
shielding's really good.
Once they get through your shield, you're usually dead anyway. In most cases, because you're like stuck somewhere and you can't get out or whatever,
But
and then
I
it doesn't
think the
matter if the
problem-
hiders die or not. So I think it's just.
I think like
Yeah.
for you it's not a problem. For me it's not a problem either. But for like more casuals, it's
but I mean,
definitely
for
gonna be really
anyone,
frustrating.
at any point when they get through your shields, you're usually
Thanks,
dead.
Lex.
So that's what I mean. You're just dead. It doesn't matter if the hiders are or not. So. It's on any wizard build. If they get through your shields, you're dead. In most cases.
Just to be
For
clear,
you and me, yeah.
So to go along with what Lexy said, I don't think that making a build where your design or you're aiming to not take a single point of damage is ever going to be available to the masses, right? Because the standard player cannot take 0 damage or cannot shield 100% of damage. And if they can, if that's made very easy to do, then you're an immortal build. So you're either an immortal build or the casual person can't play it. So casual person's got to get hit by something, and when you do get hit, as Woody said, you're screwed. So that kind of like binary situation is not.
Well, what I would like to have on a wizard class, a class that is like completely balanced around having full shield at all times on every single build that it has. It would be nice to actually see my shield. That would be amazing. So I think that would be great.
UI changes in 2020. Oh, dude, I don't know.
I mean, we have an entire class. Every single build on wizard revolves around shield.
That's true.
And not just that, we also have every format meta with the Griff Guardian Killer and with the Trash Killer. We have the T60 builds, all with the modern builds. We have some speed farming builds. There's basically half the builds in the game that people play revolve around shields, and you don't see the shields.
Correct.
This is terrible. This is
How unacceptable.
Yes, this is unacceptable. It's honestly unacceptable. Like
I
like
feel
a
your
build.
pain.
If there's like one build that's super lags and whatever, I can understand. Maybe they don't want to fix it or don't have the resources. But this is unacceptable. This is like affecting everyone almost. So
and it's even as simple as you had this in D2, which is kind of crazy. But there was a
just give us a number.
Where you could see your number all the time, right? It'd be that simple.
True.
Or PoE with the blue effect over your health globe.
PoE does a good job with energy shield, indeed. Yeah. I mean, that's a fair point, but UI changes in 2020, we'll see. But I also said before this patch we'll never see Paragon changes, and then suddenly Paragon is back on the balance table with like the health club change. So I guess anything is possible nowadays, right?
Can we see everyone's COE, please?
Can we see everyone's COE?
Yes, please.
Oh,
now we start with the UI changes,
I mean, you do see buffs from other people on the left side, so why not see the COE? That should be included, actually.
And we saw that they made it able to see other people's cheat deaths, so it's kind of in that same vein, right?
Yes,
true.
Yeah, they should definitely do this, actually. Please.
All right, so we finished with Wizard at this point, I would say, right? And brings us to the next talking point, which is GOD. I know, Lex, you want to start to go over again? You had the option the opinion at the very beginning that you don't feel like GOD needs to be touched whatsoever, right? You felt it wasn't a good place.
Not directly, it's just missile dampening, yeah.
Missile dampening is what you want to get nerfed, if at all.
So,
all right.
Yeah, so I got asked that probably 70 times so far this season. Is God going to be nerfed? Is God going to be nerfed?
Yes.
And my answer was I don't know. I could see them nerfing it. I could see them nerfing it. I could also potentially see them not nerfing it. I think missile dampening gives them just this outrageous advantage, right? That probably needs to be dealt with because all the big clears are going to be fishing for Transformer Festering with the missile dampening, and maybe even find a way to cube NEMs for more chances to NEM the pylons for more missile dampening. The way that I approach, in my mind, whether something should be nerfed or not is it just so stupidly strong compared to everything else that nothing else has a chance? And it's like it might be there, it's almost there. The thing about the God DH that is so good is it's so good at everything, right? It's so fast, it's immune to everything, it has tremendous survivability, it has decent single target damage, I guess. It has insane AoE damage. It's just so good at everything. On top of that, it hits so hard. So I'm not saying to take away any of the quality of life stuff about what makes the build so good. You could tune it down some, but at the same time, I mean, the Poison Scythe Necro currently is almost as good as it, but I guess that's going down 7 tiers. So if that goes down, maybe it needs a nerf. Definitely missile dampening at least. I don't know.
So I personally would definitely touch the proc. Sorry, the pierce. How often it can pierce, right? Uncapped with missile dampening is a real big issue, and also when a lot of monsters lining up behind each other, you also get multiple pierces. I'm never really a fan of uncapped multipliers, even when they appear on Wizard, for instance, Wave of Force with Attunement, right? Which also has, like, it's capped at 125, but when are you gonna get 125 stacks, right? It's never gonna happen. So I would say there should be a reasonable cap on Hungering Arrow on the Cold Rune. I would suggest something between 5 to 10, I don't know, somewhere in between. Should suffice for the most part. It will still, like, you will still have the same DPS on the boss. There's no changes on that one, so you don't like nerf that into the ground. And in the Rift, it you will not have like insane scaling with like some ghost elites that stack it on top of each other right in the right way on swarms or something. So at least you nerf the ridiculous damage spikes that you sometimes see. Missile dampening, I agree. This interaction just needs to go. Woody stated it's somewhere between, like, it's hard to evaluate, it's a guesstimate, but he said 5 to 10 tiers roughly, right, Woody? That's a lot. Like, that's just like an elite affix that gives you damage, and it's 5 to 10 times your damage. Yeah, that's a lot of damage. It shouldn't be the case that we have interactions like these. So I'm still
right now.
I'm still for GOG.
Right now, the cap on the Hungering Arrow is the travel distance right now, right? It's limited. It dissipates out of a certain travel distance, which leads it to a really bad playstyle because you have to sit on top of your enemies in order to get the most out of your travel distance. But if you cap the pierces and you're not relying on travel distance anymore, then you can go back into more of a range build just fine.
That's true.
I mean, I would rather be more of a range build with it. I think it fits better, but yeah.
At least on the big pulls, you could do that. If it's like kept at like 20 for 25 pierces or so, it's just like goes through the pull once, goes through the pull twice. That's it. So yeah, that would be fine then on the big pulls.
It's funny because I'm in agreement for the most part. It's just the one thing, it doesn't maybe matter, but it's kind of nice to actually care about missile dampening for once. Like you get real excited when you see it, and it does suck that it carries so hard. But outside of this, like, when have you ever cared about missile dampening, right? Like, playing a multi-shot Demon Hunter, you're like, oh, it
would still be good. It would still be something you'd like to see, and that would make certain mob sets on certain maps actually playable. When you go through a crypt, and then you realize, okay, I'm gonna skip the entire map, and suddenly you find this missile dampening, and you can clear like the entire room in like a few seconds, basically, by just putting everything inside. That's fine, and that would still happen even with such a nerf of a cap, because you don't always cap out with your pierces. So it would still basically guarantee the cap for every single arrow and kind of give you like maybe a ×2 multiplier or something like that, I guess, and not like a ×10 multiplier. So it's still nice, but nothing
just not
over
crazy.
the top. Yeah.
Okay.
So that would be the idea. It's just find the right cap basically, and that's the important part.
It was a fair point though. Like, if there is a build that cares about missile dampening, even though it's in a positive way, is it reasonable to get it stumped because of that reason specifically? Because elsewise it's like nobody
but even without missile dampening, it's extremely strong on the high end. It has this extreme high roll potential, and I think that you can just bring it down. Like even excluding missile dampenings, capping it would bring it down by a few tiers, not very much, I guess. Like I guess 2-3 tiers. If you cap it somewhere at 20 pierces, for example, or 25.
10.
I don't think it's that much.
10 tiers. Let's go 5 pierces. No.
Whoa.
Come on, dude.
What? No. This is too little. But I mean, the big upside of that is that the boss fights are going to be much shorter because your AoE potential goes down by a lot. And you can actually kill bosses in less than 8.5 minutes. So that's pretty nice.
That's pretty good.
I tried that. I did after my 150 clear, I did an 8.5 minutes kill with Stricken without season theme. That was great. Just this was this single out and dual wielding, by the way. I took single out. So this is how good single target is, by the way. This is why I was laughing about the single target comment earlier. It's pretty terrible, and this also makes it very unfun to play. So you have the AoE potential to go to the boss, but you can't kill him in half the time with the Greater Rift.
We have about 10 minutes to get through this entire section. if we want to stay on time.
Yeah, it's fine. I think we're Gucci. So last point essentially in this section is some classes have been left out, right? So this is like the speculation part for the next patch, so not for this one. What do you guys want to see roughly? Like rough ballpark, no specifics really needed here, but which class needs the most love and which sets are so garbage they must go?
All the necro sets basically, besides scenarios, I guess. Then Demon Hunter, basically everything besides gods. Like I want to see a return of Reign of Vengeance builds, for example, or Fan of Nice even. So that'd be nice, and also Marauders and so on. Barb also only has Whirlwind, so we need a bit more variety in the Red Guardian Killer department, maybe a Frenzy, and then you have like all the other stuff on Barb, I guess. So yeah, and also Monk. Monk has like one good build. Like basically all the new sets are really good, and everything else kind of sucks. So this is kind of the main issue.
Chrysson Wizard.
Yeah, and then there's Wizard with Firebirds. Firebirds need a complete rework. Tyrasha probably too, because why use that when there's LOD? And so DMO is probably fine for what it does, I guess, if you make it strong enough, and it has a bit of a uniqueness, I guess.
I think the bubbles are okay. Yeah,
I wanted DMO to have. I want a DMO to have the twisters contained in your bubble. That would be pretty cool.
I had the idea that
that's cool.
When you teleport, that your twisters teleport back onto you in your bubble.
Oh, that would be funny too.
Right, so every single time you teleport, you get the twisters on top of you again, and then you can move with the bubble all the time. What I wanted to say. But yeah, like I agree that the DMO set has a very strong fantasy kind of. Like there's a very, very high feel of immersion to it with the bubble. I feel like the 2-piece auto 4-piece should be when you cast a bubble, it travels with you, so you have it around you, the similar way like Archon has it, right? I think that should be the case. I'm not sure why it isn't, and I don't know, like it's not enough to buff like these couple of skills that we have. There needs to be more interactions with the bubble. I want to have something like when you teleport and it's everything teleports on top of.
But the thing is that with DMO, it's like a ranged playstyle, like your generators are ranged, your twisters is ranged, your frozen orb is ranged, so it doesn't really make much sense to teleport the bubbles on top of you, I think. So
I mean, the first DMO build that performed really well was a melee Arcane Orbit one. So.
Okay, that was the Arcane Orbit is like a special case. I think having a melee build with Arcane Orbit or like even just generators themselves, a Spectral Blade or so would be also pretty awesome, but it shouldn't be like the main idea of the DMO, I think.
I mean, don't you feel like the rest of the sets are more ranged? I feel like if there's one that should be melee, it should be DMO. That's how I feel about DMO. I feel like the rest of the sets, those are like ranged builds. Sure, why not, dude? But if there's a dedicated melee set, then I would say it should be DMO.
But the thing is that, as I said, like most of the skills used in DMO are actually ranged skills.
Explosive Blast, Twisters, okay, maybe. There's what is there else? See DMO, nobody knows.
Has anyone ever played Explosive Blast DMO?
See, nobody ever has, but it's in there. And there's Magic Missile, Shock Pulse, Spectral Blade. So Spectral Blade is also melee, and then there's Wave of Force, which is technically melee, I would say.
Wave of Force.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I guess you're right with Arcane Orb and Energy Twister, especially Frozen Orb, because Frozen Orb can't explode on cursor. That would be a nice change, right? And you can decide where Frozen Orb explodes. That would be amazing. So you don't need to like weirdly range all the time and deal with its travel time. So that would be a good thing. Would also be a good buff to actually speed farming with Wizard, right? Because right now it's like you shoot a Frozen Orb, you jump to the pack, and then you wait for the Frozen Orb to arrive, right? Like during key farm. It's like, when is the guy gonna hit? And then it hits, and then you pick up the DBs, and then you move on. So that kind of feels terrible. It's like you're faster than your Frozen Orbs.
We've seen that issue with Bolas, huh?
Yes. Can happen with Bolas as well. Indeed.
I'd like to make a quick case too for looking at Uliana's for the monk, because I feel like to me that's one of the most flavorful playstyles, at least for the monk, but you could even argue for the whole game. And when it first came out, it was so cool just being able to blow up the screen, especially with the cold exploding palms, just those huge cold explosions. And that set has fallen by the wayside for so long. I know a lot of people that would love to play it again if it just got reasonable buffs. So I would vote for that one. Because like we were saying before, POJ is just so strong.
Yeah. I was actually expecting for Uliana to just go crazy this season, and then they give it like a ×2, and I'm like, nah, fuck. I really wanted to play Uliana, and now I'm so
There's still the Mythic Rhythms Is there still the Mythic Rhythm
Yeah,
snapshot?
there's still the Mythic Rhythm stuff.
I don't
But it
wanna play
also
dude.
doesn't get anything from the season theme really. So it's kind of like Tempest Rush gets a huge buff from
But
like.
don't you feel
Shenlong
they
and-
should fix the Mythic Rhythm stuff? Like that is so
No,
garbage.
no.
What? That's the typical Woody 10 expressos,
I-
1 Red Bull, let's go.
I think they should fix it though.
Dude,
Yeah, I don't think we
what?
should have that snapshot.
I
Yeah,
would
that
like
needs to
it
go.
to be fixed if possible.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I completely agree with Leviathan. I think Juliana's is probably my second favorite build ever in Diablo 3 behind the static charge monk. Bring it back.
Oh man.
Please. The times 2 multiplier will do nothing for that build. It needs way more love than that. And I would say, and I agree with what Woody said, the Necromancers don't have a playable set. You can play Pesty as support Necro, and now the Bone Spear set is good, but the rest of them they're horrible. So I would love to see the Necro get some love.
Any ideas on the Necro sets? Like what there needs to be done? Like just value
Yes.
increases or?
No, they need a lot of shit. So I actually made some videos talking about set ideas.
Of course,
so,
dude.
Yeah, so if you want to go into that into more detail, but basically some ideas I had for Ratna, for example, I would make it like some huge like skeletal army that you summon as you kill stuff. So like basically killed enemies, spawn more skeletal mages or so that go over the cap. That would be amazing. Maybe bring back the Army of the Dead in there as well in some way that buffs you or makes some other cool effects. I think Dragoons could be much more about the life mechanics, give like a plus 300% life, and then you have like certain other buffs that kind of like reach a breakpoint for example, and you get some extra effects like more corpse lances or whatever, can more crits, more range, I don't know. So there could be a lot of stuff like mechanical changes, that you don't just need like damage buff, because they're all very generic sets right now. Dragoons is a very generic set. It just has like some cool flavor of life, but in the end it's just a damage buff. And the same is like with Inarios, and the same is with make Inarios like some kind of like super heavy melee set, for example, like with Scythe and with the Bone Storm doing something special and so on. But yeah, like the thing is like you can replace any set with LOD and play any build just fine on Necro right now, because there's nothing unique. There's nothing like Marauders. There's nothing like
Jade. Jade.
Yeah, Jade and so on.
Jade
Exactly.
is like the prime
So this is
example.
just
I
missing,
feel like.
Yeah. So
Right.
there's nothing you can't do with LOD basically. So besides Bone Spear maybe. So,
do you guys like those sets that have like very explicit mechanics? They are like impossible to be played as an LOD version because you need like certain set mechanics for it to
yeah,
work.
I mean that's for me that's the whole point of these sets. That you
Sets should be
acquire
unique,
this.
yeah.
Yeah. This is what makes them the set. You get this special effect from having all these items equipped, and otherwise you would have like your random LOD items that do some
I
other
get
small
that
effects.
part. So on that end, like I feel like Jade is the one where you feel it the strongest, at least to me, because it is so unique with the siphon and like sucking the dots essentially and the damaging everything with it. I don't think there's any set to me that has a stronger mechanic and fantasy. Yeah, identity. Yes.
So to go along with what Woody said, one thing I was thinking about the Rathma set, which I thought was going to be what they were going to do with the new Necro set, is I would love to see them do something with Revive. Revive,
Yeah.
absolutely.
We asked for a Revive set, right? Well, a lot of people asked for a Revive set.
Yeah, that's what I was asking for. I would love to see again, kind of it. What it reminds me of is when you go into Diablo 2 and you make a Necro that can just summon 10,000 things, not to do anything other than to lag everyone else out of the game.
Necromancer.
Yeah, you make the Summoner Mancer that can just lag everyone out of the game. But yeah, it would be fun to be like the true commander of the undead and revive the monsters and have that do something and be meaningful. I think
and spawn arcane beams from the elites that you revive, and
Now we're talking. Like Headhunter.
How many of you guys like
partner?
How many guys of you were like kind of disappointed when you played Necromancer for the first time and you tested Revive and you revived like a specific monster with like an ability? Like I remember I went to Gardens of
I tried
Hope or
Armadons, I
something.
think.
Really? I went straight up to the guys with the free debuffs. Oh Jesus, how are they called?
Insane Nightmare or what?
Enslaved Nightmares, correct. I immediately went to the Enslaved Nightmares, killed one, and I revived it. I'm like, do your shit, come on, do your shit, do it, right? It's like, do your thing. And he didn't, right? He only used like his outer attack, which is a fireball, and you never see it. Like, you actually have, I think nobody has ever seen like an outer attack from an Enslaved Nightmare because he always uses an ability. He uses like either one of his 3 like debuffs, right, or like the ground circle thing where the monsters spawn and all that stuff. But he actually never auto attacks. He has like a huge big fireball he auto attacks with, and that's the first time I saw it. Like that guy was sitting there just attacking normally, and I'm like, that's not what revive is supposed to be. Like I chose this base for a reason, and it's not doing the things it should be doing.
I mean, the interesting part about revive set would be that there would be so many things to learn with such a build. Imagine if that becomes like a meta build and you have to revive, like a certain combination, whatever.
Yes.
And then you go into the rift and you have like, okay, you have like this monster combination. There's like, 6 different monsters, and then you choose, okay, maybe 2 of this, 2 of this, and 1 of this. And
that'd be cool. Yeah.
I don't know, something like that. And then you would always find like, you go to the next rift floor, and then you replace 1 or 2 of these with something else. And you have like some crazy effects. That would be amazing. So
the only bad thing I feel is like, it's like, oh, which one is the right corpse now? And I'm like, no, wrong one.
Wait, does it not say what the corpse is from?
I'm actually don't know. I don't think so. Do they? Okay. Do corpses in D3 say what monster they are?
No idea.
Any Necro Pro players in here, Rex? Anyone?
That's not something I pay attention to, but there's some very, very dangerous things is what you guys are suggesting there. So can you imagine, think about this. Can you imagine that you revive and they do the attacks that they do, okay? Yes. Well, then what you're going to do is you're going to nem a pylon, you're going to kill the spinner, you're going to revive it, then you're going to walk up to like Blood Maw. You're like, all right, jump on me, buddy. Jumps on the spinner, reflect the attack back, and one-shot blood. Yeah. That shit is never gonna fly.
That sounds great.
Gets a lot of RNG too, right?
Pure balance.
You'll be fishing really hard for mob types there too.
Professor Hellwitch would be the best mob type because you nem a pylon, you kill a spinner, you revive it, and then they throw all the balls at you and just reflect it back at them with just one shot.
It would be crazy and very RNG. Yeah, that's true. But I think another idea for revive build or set or so could be that you just have like 1 minion. And it's like kind of like generic, but you can add stuff onto it, especially from elites. So you can kind of like finish an elite, and then you add like the elite corpse, and then it gets like one of the affixes, and then it spawns like orbiters, and then you get another elite that you kill, and then it starts spawning arcane beams too, and then kind of like build your monster as you go, and then towards the end of the rift, you just have this massive beast that just destroys the Rift Guardian. That kind of like ramps up. So
have you played PoE Metamorph?
You just have like you have like a revive build, and you kind of like stack up 200 corpses or so, and then it just keeps adding onto that pile, of this one monster. That's kind of the idea, I guess. So plus some elite affixes and so on to make it awesome.
All right. Yeah, well, Leviathan, you wanted to say something?
No, I was just agreeing. I like it.
Oh, you just were agreeing. I thought you wanted to catch a word, but I feel like we should move on at this point. We had some funny and great ideas for possible. I think we heard everything so far, guys. We were like from vanilla to D4 and back twice, kind of, so far. The last topic for today is essentially a quick glimpse on the seasonal theme. Obviously, we couldn't test it yet. We haven't had the cube yet. All you've been done is like speculating about season 22 and how it works out. And the main question is like, how do you guys feel about the theme? Straight up, the environmental part with the clone spawning, and then actually the cube slots. How did you feel reading through the patch notes, and what are your thoughts on it?
So you guys kind of touched on it on the last podcast, correct. But one of the ideas that came to light from this is that there's always been this division between who likes environmental themes and who likes the other sorts of themes,
yes.
And I'm glad that they're kind of taking a tack here to do both at the same time. Because if you don't like the environmental theme with the shadow clones and stuff, it's going to be there, but at least you do have the cube part to rely on, so you can still tinker with builds and stuff, and you can get your enjoyment out of the season that way. I definitely am concerned, like everyone is, about the shadows and what skills they'll have in particular, CCs. And I didn't even realize until Rax mentioned it that there is a huge disparity between shadows, between classes too, like frailty and certain skills that are just way better. So I'm wondering.
To be fair, basically every Necro build is going to have Dragul, I guess. So doesn't matter much.
I'm just wondering how they, maybe they don't balance it between the classes, but just in terms of what actually gets used is going to be interesting for sure.
I mean, Woody, do you have it on your Bonespear build?
Bone Spear is also, I think, it's kind of like a toss-up between Dragoons and Ralinas, I think, so it's whatever. And
so you'd be happy about the Frailty guy, technically.
Well, I don't know. It doesn't matter for most Necromancer. I think almost every build we're gonna have Dragoons, so yeah. I mean, definitely Scythe, definitely the Bone Spear, and what?
Come again, Rex?
I didn't realize there were more than 2 like playable Necro builds in the game.
I mean, Rats as well. You're gonna have it until they fix the Dragoons there for the mages and so on. So yeah, basically everyone's gonna have Dragoon anyway because it's just a big multiplier in season 22. So, but this is a special case for Necro, I guess. But yeah, they have to change the clones a bit with the make it more streamlined. Or maybe, I don't know, it doesn't have to be super streamlined, as long as they're all like effective in some way, I guess. It's fine if one of them has a frailty and the other one has, some other maybe crazy OP damage skill or so. Who knows? But,
I watched Lex's video too, and he was talking about some of the RNG aspects. And so I would throw this to the group. Do you guys think there even need to be 3 clones? Like, what if there was just 1 per class? Does it need to be the RNG aspect?
Yeah, I agree.
That's exactly what was my suggestion. Exactly that. Yep. I would prefer 1.
Same.
Yeah, I kind of like the variety, I guess. But on the other hand, I can also see why it should be only 1. But the thing is, if you click multiple pylons and suddenly have 4 clones and they all do the same stuff, I mean, why not? In the end, it's kind of like they're running around, they're shooting a bit. It's probably, it doesn't matter if it's like variety of skills or not, if it's like a variety of builds.
So
just do the thing.
Yeah. So one thing that we talked about on the last podcast, which I do think is important, is the difference between how complicated something is and the illusion of how complicated something is, right? When you look at the patch notes, it looks complicated. There's a bunch of builds. There are different variants. Do I have to study them or not? Do I have to pay attention to the hard CC or not? Do I have to build my character around this? This is a question, natural questions you will have when you see a gigantic table of 1,000 skills and 1,000 builds. When you see that. Now, how hard is the mechanic actually? You click a pylon and you get a helper. That's all it is. That's all that it is. But sometimes it's even in the delivery of it. If there was just one build, when you're this class, you get this helper. I think it would have been received better. People aren't going to have these anxious feelings when they initially read it and be like, oh, here goes Blizzard again, something else that I can't fully take advantage of. The 4th cube slot, I can cube something. If I'm dying, I cube my biggest damage mitigation. If I want to do more damage, I cube my biggest multiplier that I don't have. It's very simple to understand. I don't think it portrays a warm, fuzzy message when the encyclopedia of shadow clone builds is the first thing you see in the patch notes.
Just move it down on the patch notes. Easy.
Just lower it, and then that will fix the problem. That's all. Yeah.
I mean, realistically, it won't really matter, I guess. You just click the pylons in exactly the same way. You'd hope for the best. And, it's just kind of like maybe intimidating to see this wall of text if you look at the patch notes. But if you look at this more closely, then you realize, okay, there's like 3 different clones. They have like almost the same skills, whatever. So
I wonder if we lose people in that step. You read it, seems daunting, but then you look more closely. How many people are like, oh, screw this. I don't like this.
Yeah, but then they might just ignore that part of the patch notes and they're going to play exactly the same way and have exactly the same outcome in the end.
Or they won't play.
I don't think it's going to be that bad.
I mean, honestly. Counter question. How many people read the patch notes, look at how few things were done and say, I definitely won't play?
Exactly. I mean, the main concern usually is that there's not enough patch notes. And now we have more patch notes and people are, I'm not going to play because there's too much patch notes. So what?
By that logic, nobody would ever play PoE. Like, have you seen those patch notes, dude?
Yeah, exactly. So everyone's complaining about too little on Diablo 3. And I wouldn't mind it if they just make it 1 clone per class, but whatever. So I don't think it's really changing much in terms of the overall picture of how well the patch is received and so on. As long as the clones actually do something and not screw you over, even with like hard CC and stuff. So this is like one of the concerns, I guess.
I think one thing we all can agree on is that like 1.5 years ago, 1 year ago, we would have never thought as a community that we would get any meaningful patch in Diablo 3 ever, right? There was a long period of nothingness, essentially, and then we got a larger blog post stating we are getting new sets and a balance patch afterwards. And this period is nearly over, right? Like we're closing. We have the sets. We have the first balance patch and maybe the next one. So the question here would be, what is the next thing after we have retained perfect balance, if at all?
Make Ubers great again.
Make Ubers great again. Do you
And
guys
quality
think
of
that's
life.
quality of life?
Close GRs.
Diablo 4, close GRs, yeah. Close all
I
GRs.
think there's tons of things they can still do for Diablo 3 until we finally reach, like closer to Diablo 4.
Very good.
They could do a lot of balancing. They could do a lot of stuff, experimental season themes that make the game crazy. They could do, some crazy buffs to certain skills that have never been used in the last 6 years. Spike traps. And
nice try.
there's tons of stuff they can still add, just like throw some stuff in there, make it crazy for a season or two. I don't think this is really that much, even with rather low investment, I guess they can do a lot of like big changes. It's at least for the meta. They could also add, maybe other activities, like the Ubers, for example, could be some kind of like, maybe with GR scaling, you have like new Uber fights or whatever, like just add like more bosses into these Uber fights or more elites that spawn randomly or stuff like that, and then have it scale with GRs.
We used to have a wave thing. Remember we used to have this wave thing with the trials. Yeah, bring that back.
Do not want the trials back, Lexy.
Why not?
Well, not for the purpose.
Yeah, but it could
Not
be
for the purpose
way.
of the trials, but for it as its own like wave attack mode, where you kind of like climb up higher and higher in a wave attack thing.
So
I feel like we made a full circle now. We have like in this podcast, where in this episode, I feel like we covered like nearly everything there is to cover, from Z Crusader over to Trials, Diablo 4, Poison Hydra, Legacy.
I was already noting down. Like, okay,
like everything is done, guys. We have nothing to talk about in the next podcast anymore.
No, we make a whole episode out of all of these topics.
Yes,
one thing that I would really like them to explore, I think, might be, because I feel like sometimes we keep getting into the same mindset of changing the same things, balancing and things like that. One thing that I would like Blizzard to do is look at the game modes. Look at campaign. Give me a reason. Change campaign in some way. I'm not even talking about changing like the story. Give me a reason to do campaign. If you do campaign in a season, you get something. You get, I don't know what it would be. Anything. You get 500 Paragon points. Bam, just bam. You just get 500 Paragon points or something. It could be anything. Change the Challenge Rift mode. Challenge Rift mode is you do it and you get a cash. Make something with the leaderboards, or make it somehow more interesting. Make greater rifts or bounties or rifts. Change them in a way. Something. Do anything to make it more interesting. The game modes are never changed. Just like the fundamental things that you log into to go do. I would love to see them do something more exciting with those.
I'm sure we can have an amazing podcast about this one. We can collect a couple of ideas in the community. I'm sure Woody has thousands of them already, and probably already 5 videos, right, Woody?
No, but the video is being made right now.
Right. The video is being made right now. In production right now. But unfortunately, we don't have infinite time. This is a timed instance, the same like a Greater Rift, and we need to call it at some point. So at this point, guys, I want to say big thank you to all of you being here. Woody, Lex, Leviathan. It was nice to have you guys here. Rex, thanks for co-hosting. Where can everyone find you? Like, shoutouts, where can people find you? You want to go first, Woody?
Well, I'm just going to type it in chat. There you go. This is my
it?
Twitch. I also have YouTube with the same name. And just find me there. I also have a Discord with, maybe you can put that here as well. It's like quite active with lots of people looking for groups. There's my D3 planners, all this stuff. So I'm just gonna throw this in here too. And that's it.
Lex, where can people find you?
I'll link the stream and YouTube. And my YouTube videos are a little bit different. They're not like for example, like Rax goes into a really big deep dive into mechanics and every question that can be answered, and it's very good and very knowledgeable guide. But my videos are kind of designed more for like 5 minutes or less, just to explain to you kind of how to play a build, what the rotation is, more focused on gameplay and less focused on like explaining the setups for like explaining things at a D3 planner, for example. I'm not going to sit at a D3 planner and explain those things. I'm just going to link it and then do a very short, brief explanation.
Another way to say it is
So it's a
like
little different.
videos are better. Is what it is.
No, not better at all. It's just different. It's just different.
All right, Steven, where can
Rex
people
makes
find
it
you?
hard. I always talk forever. I guess Rex too.
For me, I'll go ahead and do the same thing. Link my stream, twitch.tv/Leviathan111. I feel like different from everybody here, maybe accepting sVr. I'm kind of stepping back from being like a permanent presence and doing a lot of stuff, but my goal is usually to just try to deliver, like speak less, but speak, significantly, and just try to be around to help the community out a lot, like in projects like this and stuff. So, I'm super happy to see this collaboration come together, and thank you again for inviting me and involving me in this. So, yeah, just check out the stream whenever it pops up, and looking forward to chatting with you guys about the future of D3 and D4.
I'm Rax. I stream a lot. There's the link. Hope to see you there. Love you guys.
And for today, I was your host, sVr. You can find me on Twitch, sVr_90. And that's about it. Thanks you all for being here. See you on the next one. The next episode is next Saturday, 8 p.m. CET. It will be a core game episode hosted by Roika with the topic Diablo 4 skill trees. See you then.
Diablo 4 next week, guys. Be there.
Woo-woo.
Bye.
Adios.